The needle slipped into her vein while 3 deputies watched, not to help her, to plant evidence in her bloodstream. Nurse Emma Hartley didn't scream, didn't beg. She just stared at Deputy Marcus Wade with that unsettling calm of someone who'd already calculated his downfall. "You have no idea what you just did," she said quietly. He laughed. "You're nobody." She smiled then, a small, dangerous thing. "We'll see." If you want to know how a woman with nothing turned a rigged system inside out, stick with me until the end. Like this video, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Because what happens next? Nobody saw it coming. 3 months earlier, Emma Hartley's Honda Civic rolled into Ashford, Nebraska just after midnight. The town was the kind of place people left, not moved to. Population 4,200. One stoplight, a diner that closed at 8. She passed the welcome sign without slowing, her headlights cutting through cornfields that stretched into nothing. The Ashford Regional Clinic sat on the edge of town, a squat brick building with flickering parking lot lights. Emma pulled into a space near the back entrance, killed the engine, and sat for a moment in the silence. Her scrubs were folded neatly on the passenger seat. Her ID badge, Emma Hartley, RN, clipped to the collar. Everything in order, everything quiet. She wasn't running from anything, not exactly, but she wasn't looking back either. Inside, the night shift supervisor barely glanced up from her crossword puzzle. "You the new nurse?" "Emma Hartley. Starting tonight?" "Room 3 needs vitals. Room 7's got a nosebleed that won't quit. Good luck." The supervisor went back to her puzzle. Emma moved through the clinic like she'd been there for years. Efficient. Precise. She didn't chat with the other nurses, didn't ask questions, just did the work. By dawn, she'd handled 2 overdoses, 1 kitchen burn, and a kid who'd fallen off a trampoline. Nobody thanked her. Nobody noticed her. Perfect. She clocked out at 6, drove to a motel on Highway 34, and slept without dreaming. The routine held for 2 weeks. Work, sleep, repeat. She spoke only when necessary. Ate alone. Kept her apartment bare except for a bed, a lamp, and a laptop she never opened in public. The people of Ashford decided she was odd but harmless, quiet, forgettable. That's what she wanted them to think. Emma had learned a long time ago that being underestimated was a weapon. In the Army, she'd watched men dismiss the female medics until bullets started flying. Then suddenly those same men were screaming for her, begging. She'd saved more lives than she could count, patched wounds in the back of moving trucks, performed emergency procedures with mortar fire shaking the walls. She'd been calm then too, always calm. That calmness had cost her in other ways. After her discharge, she'd tried working at a hospital in Denver. Big, modern, chaotic. The doctors didn't like that she questioned their orders. The nurses didn't like that she didn't gossip. Management didn't like that she filed incident reports when protocols weren't followed. 6 months in, they'd let her go. Not a good cultural fit, they said. She'd moved to a clinic in Cheyenne. Same story. Then Rapid City, then Sioux Falls. Always the same. People wanted nurses who smiled and nodded, not ones who remembered everything and noticed too much. So she'd stopped trying to fit in, stopped expecting anything. Just found places small enough that they needed her more than they cared about her personality. Ashford was supposed to be the same, just another small town. Another quiet job. Then came the night Marcus Wade walked into her life. Emma was leaving the clinic just after midnight when she noticed the patrol car idling near the exit. She didn't change her pace, didn't look over, just unlocked her car, tossed her bag inside, and started the engine. The cruiser's lights flared red and blue before she'd even left the lot. She pulled over immediately, hands visible on the wheel, window already down. The deputy took his time approaching, boots crunching gravel, flashlight sweeping her back seat. License and registration. Emma handed them over without a word. She kept her eyes forward, her breathing even. He studied her license longer than necessary. "Emma Hartley, you're new here." "Yes, sir." "Where you coming from tonight?" "Work." "Ashford Regional?" Uh-huh. He leaned closer, shining the light directly into her face. "You been drinking?" "No, sir." "Smoking anything?" "No, sir." He sniffed theatrically. "I smell marijuana." Emma's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed level. "There's no marijuana in this vehicle. Step out of the car." She did, slowly, hands at her sides. Deputy Wade circled her like a predator testing prey. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that photographs well, clean-cut, trustworthy. The kind of cop who got elected sheriff someday. "You nervous?" "No, sir." "You're shaking." She wasn't, but she didn't argue. He opened her back door, started rummaging through her bag, tossed her water bottle onto the seat, pulled out her phone, turned it over in his hands. "You got something to hide?" "No, sir." "Then you won't mind if I search?" It wasn't a question. Emma watched him tear through her car with practiced efficiency. He checked under the seats, popped the glove box, rifled through her trunk. She stood in the cold, arms crossed, waiting. She'd been searched before. Different context, different country, but the posture of authority was universal. The assumption of guilt, the performance of control. She'd learned to endure it. Then Wade paused. His hand dipped into his jacket pocket just for a second, before reaching under the driver's seat. Emma's eyes tracked the movement, registered it, filed it away. "Well, well." He straightened, holding a small plastic baggie between two fingers, white powder. "What do we have here?" Emma's stomach dropped, but her face didn't move. "That's not mine." "Sure it isn't." He smiled, not friendly, victorious. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." The cuffs clicked cold and tight around her wrists. "You're under arrest for possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute." Emma said nothing. Not because she was scared, because she was thinking. She'd seen the moment his hand went into his pocket, seen the angle, the timing, and she'd done nothing to stop it. Not yet. At the station, they processed her like cattle. Fingerprints, mugshot, inventory. A female officer patted her down, bored and rough, then shoved her into a holding cell that smelled like piss and bleach. Emma sat on the metal bench, hands folded in her lap, and stared at the wall. The other woman in the cell was passed out in the corner, drooling onto her own shoulder. Emma didn't try to wake her, just sat, waited. 2 hours later, a public defender showed up. He looked about 12, overworked, underpaid. He didn't even sit down. "Emma Hartley?" "Yes." "I'm Josh Carver. I'll be representing you. They're charging you with possession with intent. That's a felony. You're looking at 5 to 10 if this goes to trial." "I didn't do it." He sighed like he'd heard that line 1,000 times. "Look, I believe you. But the deputy says he found cocaine in your car. That's his word against yours. And juries around here, they trust cops." "He planted it." Josh rubbed his eyes. Dark circles underneath, coffee stains on his shirt. "Can you prove that?" Emma met his gaze. "Not yet." "Then my advice? Take the plea. 18 months, out in 9 with good behavior. It's not fair, but it's the best deal you'll get." "No." He blinked. "No?" "I want a trial. Miss Hartley, you don't have money for a real defense. You don't have witnesses. You don't have... I want a trial." Josh stared at her for a long moment. Something in her voice made him pause. Not desperation, not anger, just absolute certainty. "Your funeral," he said finally. Bail was set at $50,000. Emma didn't have it, didn't have anyone to call. So she stayed. The county jail was worse than the holding cell. Overcrowded, loud, violent. Women cycled in and out, addicts, thieves, mothers who couldn't make rent. Emma kept to herself, ate the gray food that tasted like cardboard and regret, slept lightly, watched. She'd spent 7 months in a field hospital outside Kandahar. This was nothing. One night, a woman in the bunk above her leaned down. "You the nurse they busted?" Emma didn't answer. "I heard about you. Wade got you too, huh?" Emma looked up. The woman was maybe 30, hollow-eyed, track marks on her arms like a roadmap of bad decisions. "He got me last year," the woman continued. "Same thing. Pulled me over, said he smelled weed, found pills in my purse. I told him they weren't mine. Nobody cared." "Did you take the plea?" "Yeah, what else was I going to do? I got 2 kids. Couldn't risk trial." She paused. "You got kids?" "No." "Then you're lucky. You can fight." Emma turned away. "Get some sleep." But she didn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, running through every second of that traffic stop. Wade's movements, his confidence, the way he'd known exactly where to find the drugs. This wasn't his first time. And if it wasn't his first time, there were others. The next morning, Emma requested access to the jail library. The guard, a heavy-set man who looked perpetually annoyed, escorted her down a hallway that smelled like mildew. The library was a closet with 3 shelves of water-damaged paperbacks and 1 ancient desktop computer. 30 minutes, the guard said. Don't break anything. Emma sat down and got to work. The computer was slow, painfully slow, but it had internet access, restricted, monitored, but functional. She started with public records, arrest reports, court filings, anything tagged with Marcus Wade's name. 38 years old. Ashford Sheriff's Department for 12 years, decorated, respected, no formal complaints on file. But there were patterns, traffic stops, arrests, possession charges. All small time. All defendants too poor to fight. All convictions. Emma printed everything she could on the wheezing printer in the corner. Cross-referenced dates. Found overlap. Found consistency. Over the next 2 weeks, she requested library access every day. The guard stopped asking why. Just walked her down, unlocked the door, came back 30 minutes later. Emma built a timeline. Wade's arrests spiked every few months, then plateaued, then spiked again. Like clockwork. She found news articles, local coverage. Deputy Wade commended for drug seizure record. Ashford officer receives award for community safety. There was a photo. Wade shaking hands with the sheriff, both men smiling. Emma stared at that photo until the guard came back. Time's up. She printed it, added it to her folder. When Josh finally visited again, she handed him everything. I need you to subpoena these records. He flipped through the stack, frowning. What is this? Every arrest Wade made in the last 3 years. I want dashcam footage, incident reports, evidence logs. Emma, this is a lot of work for a case we're probably going to lose. Do it. Something in her voice made him stop. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time he didn't see a desperate woman. He saw something harder, something that didn't bend. Okay, he said quietly. I'll try. The footage came back 3 days before trial. Josh showed up at the jail looking like he hadn't slept. He carried a laptop and a stack of files that barely fit through the visiting room door. I got the records, he said. Most of it's routine, standard stops. But Emma... What? There's no dashcam video for your stop. Wade said the camera malfunctioned. Emma leaned forward. Check the others. Josh opened his laptop, scrolled through files. His frown deepened. There are 6 other stops in the last 18 months with no footage. All possession arrests, all convictions. Same pattern? Yeah. Routine traffic stop, claimed to smell drugs, found evidence. Defendants had no priors, no money, took plea deals. Emma's smile was thin, cold. He's been doing this for years. We still can't prove he planted evidence on you specifically. Yes, we can. She reached into her jumpsuit pocket, technically contraband, but the guards had stopped caring what the inmates carried and pulled out a USB drive. Josh stared. Where did you get that? I had a dash cam, installed it myself 2 years ago after a patient's family tried to claim I'd stolen from their car. Never took it out. His eyes went wide. You recorded the stop? Every second. Why didn't you tell me this before? Emma's expression didn't change. Because I needed to know if you'd fight without it. If you'd actually look at the evidence. Most public defenders just push plea deals and move on. Josh opened his mouth, closed it. Then he started laughing, a sharp, disbelieving sound. You're insane. Maybe. This changes everything. I know. He looked down at the drive like it might explode. They're going to crucify him. Emma's voice was soft. Final. Good. Josh plugged in the drive. The video loaded. He watched in silence, his face going from confused to shocked to something close to rage. He just reaches into his jacket and... I saw it happen, Emma said, in real time, but I knew if I said anything right then, it'd be my word against his. So I stayed quiet. Let him think he'd won. You let yourself get arrested. I let him arrest me, Emma corrected. There's a difference. Josh rewound the video, watched it again. We need to authenticate this. Get a forensic expert to verify it hasn't been edited. Already thought of that. There's a guy in Lincoln who does digital forensics. I wrote down his name. She slid a piece of paper across the table. Josh picked it up, shaking his head. How long have you been planning this? Since the moment he put the cuffs on me. He stared at her for a long moment. You're not a normal person, are you? No, Emma said. I'm not. The trial started on a cold Tuesday morning. The courthouse was old, wood-paneled, with high ceilings that made every sound echo. Emma sat at the defense table in a borrowed blouse that didn't quite fit, hair pulled back, face blank. The gallery was half full. Curious locals, a couple of reporters from the county paper. Nobody who knew her, nobody who cared. The prosecutor was a man named Dale Kirchner. Mid-50s, gray suit, the kind of lawyer who won cases by sounding reasonable. He opened with confidence. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a simple case. Deputy Marcus Wade conducted a lawful traffic stop. He detected the odor of marijuana. He performed a search. He found cocaine. The defendant had no reasonable explanation for how it got there. The evidence is clear. The law is clear. We ask that you find the defendant guilty. Short, clean, effective. Josh stood for the defense. He looked nervous, young, outmatched. Members of the jury, my client is innocent. She's a nurse. She has no criminal record, no history of drug use, and the evidence you're about to see will prove that Deputy Wade planted the drugs in her car. A few jurors exchanged skeptical looks. Emma didn't react. The prosecution called Wade to the stand first. He was calm, professional, uniform pressed, badge gleaming. He told his story with the ease of someone who'd told it 100 times before. I observed the defendant's vehicle leaving the clinic parking lot at approximately 12:20 a.m. She failed to signal before turning onto the highway. I initiated a traffic stop. When I approached the vehicle, I detected a strong odor of marijuana. What happened next? I asked the defendant to step out of the vehicle. She complied. I explained that I would be conducting a search. She did not object. And what did you find? Approximately 15 grams of cocaine, packaged in a clear plastic bag, located under the driver's seat. And you're certain it was there? Yes, sir. No question. Thank you, Deputy. Kirchner sat down, confident. Josh stood. He looked less nervous now, steadier. Deputy Wade, you said Ms. Hartley was nervous? Yes. Did she resist the search? No. Did she argue? No. Did she attempt to flee? No. Josh paused. So she cooperated fully? Wade shifted slightly. She was nervous. But she cooperated. Yes. And you're certain, absolutely certain, the drugs were in her car? Yes. No possibility of mistake? None. Josh nodded slowly. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Defense Exhibit A into evidence. He picked up a remote. The screen on the wall flickered to life. The courtroom went silent. The video was crystal clear. Emma's dashcam had captured everything. The angle, the lighting, Wade's approach, his hand dipping into his jacket, pulling something out, bending down, slipping it under the seat, then straightening, then discovering it 30 seconds later. The prosecutor shot to his feet. Objection! We weren't notified of this evidence. We filed notice 3 days ago, Josh said calmly. Check your email. The judge looked at Kirchner. Counselor? Kirchner sat down slowly, face red. Overruled. Continue. Josh played the video again, slower this time. The second time, people in the gallery gasped. One juror covered her mouth. Wade's face went white, then red, then pale again. That's not, he started. That's you, isn't it, Deputy? Josh's voice was steady now, stronger. That's your uniform, your badge number, your patrol car in the background. It's edited. It's fake. Your Honor, we've had the footage authenticated by a certified digital forensics expert. The metadata confirms the date, time, and device. There's no evidence of tampering. Josh held up a thick report. The expert is here to testify if needed. The judge leaned forward, eyes locked on Wade. Deputy, do you have an explanation for what we just saw? Wade's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Emma stood slowly. Every eye in the room turned to her. She'd been silent the entire trial. Now her voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. "I served 6 years as a combat medic in the U.S. Army," she said quietly. "I was deployed twice, Iraq and Afghanistan. I was trained to stay calm under pressure, to observe, to document, and to wait for the right moment to act." Her eyes locked on Wade. "I knew what you did the second you did it. I saw your hand go into your pocket. I saw you plant the evidence. But I also knew that if I said anything right then, it would be my word against yours. A nobody nurse versus a decorated deputy. So I stayed quiet. I let you arrest me. I let you think you'd won." She took a step forward. "Because I knew that the truth always comes out. It just takes patience." The courtroom exploded into chaos. The judge banged his gavel. Kirchner was on his feet, shouting objections. Wade sat frozen, hands gripping the witness box. Josh moved quickly. "Your Honor, we move to dismiss all charges immediately. Furthermore, we request that the court refer this matter to the State Attorney General for criminal investigation into Deputy Wade's conduct." The judge didn't hesitate. "Motion granted. Case dismissed. Deputy Wade, you are hereby ordered to surrender your badge and weapon. Bailiff, take him into custody pending investigation." Wade finally moved. He stood, stumbling slightly. "This is insane. You can't—" Two bailiffs grabbed his arms. As they led him past Emma, he stopped, looked at her. "You set me up." Emma's expression didn't change. "No, you set yourself up. I just made sure everyone could see it." They dragged him out. The courtroom erupted again, reporters scrambling for the door, spectators shouting, the judge still banging his gavel. Emma sat down, folded her hands, waited for the noise to die. Josh dropped into the chair beside her, breathing hard. "I can't believe that just happened." "You should." "Why?" "Because it wasn't luck, it was planning." He stared at her. "How long have you known this would work?" "Since the moment I installed that camera 2 years ago. I've seen too many people get away with things because nobody could prove it, so I decided I wouldn't be one of them." Josh laughed, high and disbelieving. "You're terrifying, you know that?" "I've been told." Within an hour, the courthouse steps were swarmed. Reporters, cameras, microphones shoved in Emma's face. She walked through them without stopping, Josh running interference beside her. "Ms. Hartley, how does it feel to be vindicated?" "Ms. Hartley, did you know Deputy Wade was corrupt?" "Ms. Hartley, are you going to sue?" She didn't answer, just kept walking until she reached Josh's car. He drove her back to the motel in silence. Finally, pulling into the parking lot, he spoke. "What are you going to do now?" Emma looked out the window at the flat Nebraska landscape. "I don't know yet." "You could sue. Civil rights violation, false arrest. You'd win." "Maybe." "You could go to the press, tell your story. You'd be a hero." "I'm not a hero." Josh turned to her. "Then what are you?" Emma opened the door, paused. "Just someone who's tired of watching bad people win." She got out and walked to her room without looking back. Inside, she sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself breathe. Her hands shook, just a little. Adrenaline draining. She'd held it together through the entire trial, through the chaos, through Wade's face when he realized he'd lost. Now, alone, she let the mask slip, but only for a moment. Her phone buzzed. A text from Josh. "Check the news." She turned on the TV. Every local channel was covering the trial. The video of Wade planting evidence played on loop. Ashford deputy arrested after shocking courtroom revelation. Nurse proves innocence with dashcam footage. How many others did Deputy Wade frame? That last headline made Emma pause. How many others? She thought of the woman in her jail cell, the hollow-eyed addict who'd taken a plea because she couldn't risk trial, the mother with 2 kids who couldn't afford to fight. Emma pulled out her folder, the one she'd built in the jail library, flipped through the arrest records, the patterns, the convictions. Wade had been doing this for years, and he'd gotten away with it because his victims were poor, powerless, alone. But now the door was open. Now people would start asking questions. Emma picked up her phone and dialed Josh. "Hey," he answered. "You okay?" "I need you to do something." "What?" "I need you to contact every person Wade arrested in the last 5 years. Everyone who took a plea deal. Everyone who's sitting in prison right now, Because of him. There was a long pause. Emma, that's a lot of people. I know. It could take months, maybe years. I know. Another pause. Why are you doing this? Emma looked at the TV, Wade's face frozen mid-denial. Because someone has to. Josh was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, I'll start tomorrow. Thank you. She hung up, turned off the TV, lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in months, she felt something close to calm. But it didn't last. Because 3 hours later, her phone rang again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her pick up. Hello? Ms. Hartley? A man's voice, clipped, official. Yes. This is Agent Robert Kasdan with the FBI. We need to talk. Emma sat up. About what? About Marcus Wade, and about the 14 other deputies in 3 counties who've been running the same scheme. Her breath caught. 14? At least. We've been investigating for 8 months. Your case just became our smoking gun. Emma's mind raced. 14 deputies, 3 counties, 8 months. This wasn't just corruption. This was organized. What do you need from me? She asked. Everything you've got. And then we need you to testify. Against who? Everyone. Emma looked at the folder on the bed. The arrests, the patterns, the faces of people who'd been crushed by a system that was supposed to protect them. When do we start? Agent Kasdan's voice held something close to relief. How about now? 2 days later, Emma sat in a conference room in Omaha, surrounded by federal agents, case files stacked 3 feet high. Kasdan was there. So was his partner, a woman named Torres who didn't smile. They'd brought in a prosecutor from the DOJ, a forensic accountant, a data analyst. They laid it all out. Marcus Wade wasn't alone. He was part of a network. Deputies across 3 counties, Ashford, Millerton, and Crestview, had been planting evidence, making arrests, and collecting overtime pay for court appearances. The scheme had been running for at least 6 years, possibly longer. How many victims? Emma asked. We're estimating between 200 and 300, Torres said. Most took plea deals, some are still in prison. Emma felt sick. 300 people. At least. Kasdan leaned forward. Here's the problem. We can prove Wade planted evidence on you. We have video. But for the others, we need testimony. We need witnesses. And most of these people are too scared to come forward. Why? Because half of them are still on parole. So if they make noise, they risk retaliation, harassment, being sent back to prison on technical violations. So what do you need me to do? We need you to be the face of this, Torres said. You're credible. You have proof. You're not a criminal. If you testify, others might follow. Emma looked at the files. Names, faces, lives destroyed. What happens if I say no? Kasdan didn't hesitate. Wade gets charged, maybe does a few years, the others walk, the system stays broken, and this happens again somewhere else. Emma stared at him. That's not a real choice. No, he said. It's not. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city below, people moving, living, unaware that their justice system had been rotting from the inside. I'll do it, she said. Torres nodded. We'll need you to go through every case, identify patterns, help us build timelines. Fine. It's going to take months. I've got time. Kasdan stood. There's one more thing. Emma turned. Some of these deputies are still active, still on the street, and once this goes public, they're going to know you're the one who started it. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying you should be careful. Emma almost laughed. I've been shot at in Kandahar. I think I can handle some small-town cops. Torres didn't smile. These aren't enemy combatants. They're people with badges who think they're above the law. That makes them more dangerous. Emma met her gaze. Then they're going to learn they're wrong. The investigation moved fast. Federal agents flooded Ashford. Search warrants, subpoenas, interviews. The local news couldn't keep up. Every day brought new revelations, more deputies implicated, more victims coming forward. Emma worked with the FBI 12 hours a day, reviewing files, cross-referencing arrest reports, building timelines. She barely slept, Barely ate. Just kept pushing. Josh called her every few days. You need to slow down. I'm fine. You're not. You're running yourself into the ground. I said I'm fine, he sighed. Emma, you won. Wade's finished. You don't have to carry this whole thing yourself. Yes, I do. Why? Because she'd seen what happened when people looked away, when they decided it wasn't their problem. She'd seen it in the army, seen it in hospitals, seen it in courtrooms. People got hurt because nobody wanted to be the one to stand up. She wasn't going to be one of them. I'll call you later, she said, and hung up. 3 weeks into the investigation, Emma got a visitor. She was in her motel room reviewing files when someone knocked. She checked the peephole. A woman, mid-40s, nervous. Emma opened the door. Can I help you? The woman hesitated. Are you Emma Hartley? Yes. I'm Sarah Brennan. Deputy Wade arrested me 2 years ago. I saw you on the news. I needed to meet you. Emma stepped aside. Come in. Sarah sat on the edge of the chair, hands twisting in her lap. He pulled me over for a broken taillight, said he smelled alcohol. I hadn't been drinking, but he found a bottle of vodka in my trunk. I don't even drink vodka. Did you take a plea? Yeah, DUI. Lost my license for a year. Lost my job. My husband left me. She looked up, eyes wet. I told everyone I was innocent. Nobody believed me. Emma sat down across from her. I believe you. Sarah's face crumpled. She cried, hard, shaking sobs that sounded like they'd been trapped for years. Emma didn't try to comfort her, just waited. Finally, Sarah wiped her face. They said you're helping the FBI. I am. Can I help too? You already are, just by telling me this. No, I want to testify. I want people to know what he did. Emma leaned forward. It's going to be hard. They'll cross-examine you, try to make you look unreliable. I don't care. I've been living with this for 2 years. I need people to know the truth. Emma nodded. Then I'll make sure they hear it. Over the next month, 23 more people came forward. Truck drivers, single mothers, college students, all of them with the same story. Routine stop, planted evidence, forced plea. The FBI built a case that could bury the entire department. But Emma knew it wasn't enough, because the deputies were still out there, still working, still carrying badges, and some of them were watching her. She noticed the car the first time on a Tuesday. Dark sedan, tinted windows, parked across from her motel. She didn't think much of it. Could be anyone. But it was there again Wednesday and Thursday. By Friday, she was sure. She called Kazdan. I'm being followed. Are you certain? I spent 6 years in active combat zones. I know when I'm being watched. Okay, we'll send someone. Don't. Emma, if you send agents, whoever it is will back off. I want to know who it is. That's dangerous. So is letting them think I'm scared. Kazdan was quiet for a long moment. You're not going to let this go, are you? No. He sighed. Fine. But you call me if anything happens. Anything. I will. She didn't, because Saturday night when she left the motel to grab food, the car followed her. Emma drove slowly, deliberately, led them out of town onto a back road with no lights and no witnesses. Then she pulled over. The sedan stopped 50 yards back. Emma got out, walked toward it. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out, mid-30s, badge on his belt, deputy's uniform from Millerton County. Evening, he said. Emma stopped 10 feet away. You following me for a reason? Just making sure you're safe. I didn't ask for protection. He smiled, not friendly. A lot of dangerous people out there, nurse like you, all alone. Never know what might happen. Is that a threat? Just a concern. Emma didn't blink. Tell whoever sent you that I'm not stopping, not slowing down, not backing off. And if anything happens to me, the FBI already has everything I know. The deputy's smile faded. You're making a mistake. No, Emma said. You all made the mistake. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. She turned and walked back to her car. Got in. Drove away. In the rearview mirror, she watched the sedan sit there for a long moment. Then it turned around and disappeared. Emma's hands were shaking when she got back to the motel. Not from fear, from rage. They thought they could scare her, thought she'd fold. They had no idea who they were dealing with. She called Kazdan, told him everything. "We're pulling you out," he said immediately. "This is too dangerous." "No." Emma, no. "If I run, they win. If I hide, the whole case falls apart. We can protect you." "I don't need protection. I need you to move faster. How long until arrests?" Kazdan hesitated. 2 weeks, maybe 3. "Make it 1. "It doesn't work like that." "Then make it work." She hung up. That night she didn't sleep, just sat by the window, watching the parking lot, waiting for the sedan to come back. It didn't. But the next morning, her car had 4 slashed tires. Emma stared at them for a long moment. Then she called a tow truck, got the car fixed, installed a security camera on her motel room door, and kept working. The FBI moved fast. Warrants were executed at dawn. 12 deputies arrested simultaneously across 3 counties. Their homes searched. Bank records seized. Communications subpoenaed. The evidence was overwhelming. Text messages coordinating arrests. Cash deposits that didn't match reported income. Patterns so clear even a first-year law student could see them. Within 48 hours, the entire network had collapsed. And Marcus Wade, sitting in county lockup, realized he wasn't the only one going down. Emma watched the news coverage from her motel room, saw the deputies being let out in cuffs, saw their lawyers making statements, saw their families crying. She felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief. Just the cold knowledge that justice, when it finally came, was never as clean as people wanted it to be. Her phone rang. Kazdan. "We got them," he said. "All 12. They're being arraigned tomorrow." "What about the victims?" "We're working on exonerations. It's going to take time, but we'll get there." "How long?" "Months? Maybe a year." Emma closed her eyes. "People are sitting in prison right now because of this." "I know. We're moving as fast as we can." "Move faster!" She hung up, looked at the stack of files on her bed, the faces of people still waiting for justice. And she realized this was just the beginning, because even with the deputies arrested, the system that allowed them to thrive was still intact. The prosecutors who'd ignored red flags, the judges who'd rubber-stamped plea deals, the defense attorneys who'd been too overworked to notice the patterns. All of them still had their jobs, still had their power. Emma stood, walked to the window, looked out at Ashford, a town that had let corruption fester because it was easier than fighting. She'd exposed Marcus Wade, brought down a network of corrupt deputies, but the work wasn't done, not even close. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for what you did. My brother's case is being reviewed because of you. You gave us hope." Emma stared at the message for a long moment. Then she sat down at the desk and opened her laptop. If they wanted to fight dirty, she'd show them what a real fight looked like. Because if they wanted to fight dirty, she'd show them what a real fight looked like. The laptop screen glowed in the dark motel room. Emma's fingers moved across the keyboard, pulling up case files, cross-referencing names, building connections the FBI hadn't asked for. She wasn't done with Marcus Wade. She was done with everyone who'd made Wade possible. The first name on her list was District Attorney Raymond Howell. Howell had prosecuted 70% of Wade's cases, never questioned the evidence, never pushed back on suspiciously similar arrest reports, just accepted everything at face value and racked up convictions like they were trophies. Either he was incompetent or complicit. Emma was betting on the latter. She pulled up his record, elected DA 3 times, ran on a tough-on-crime platform, boasted a 92% conviction rate. The local paper loved him, called him a bulldog, a fighter for justice. Emma scrolled through his cases, saw the pattern immediately. Low-level drug offenses, poor defendants, overworked public defenders, plea deals that kept cases out of court where evidence might actually get examined. Wade fed him easy wins. Howell never asked where they came from. She saved everything to a folder, labeled it Howell, started a new document. Then her phone rang. Kazdan again. "It's midnight," she said. "I know. We have a problem." Emma sat up straighter. "What kind of problem?" 3 of the deputies just posted bail." "How? The charges are—" "Bail was set at $50,000 each. Someone paid it. Cash. Anonymous. Emma's jaw tightened. Who? We don't know yet. But Emma, these guys are out. And they know you're the reason they're in this mess. Let them know. This isn't a joke. These are trained officers who just lost everything. They're desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. Then arrest them again. For what? They haven't violated their bail conditions. Emma stood, pacing the small room. So what am I supposed to do? Hide? I'm saying be smart. We're assigning you protection. I don't want... It's not optional. Agent Torres will be there in an hour. She'll stay close until we have these guys back in custody. The line went dead. Emma stared at the phone, then threw it onto the bed. Protection, like she was some fragile victim who needed babysitting. She'd survived Kandahar, survived Wade. She didn't need the FBI holding her hand. But an hour later, when Torres knocked on the door, Emma let her in without argument. Torres entered with a duffel bag and a no-nonsense expression. You armed? No. Torres unzipped the bag, pulled out a Glock 19. You know how to use this? I was in the army. That's not what I asked. Emma took the gun, checked the chamber, released the magazine, reinserted it. Yeah, I know how to use it. Good. Keep it close. Don't answer the door unless you know who it is. Don't go anywhere alone. You planning to follow me to the bathroom? Torres didn't smile. If I have to. They settled into an uncomfortable routine. Torres sat up by the window, watching the parking lot. Emma went back to her laptop, pulling up more files, digging deeper. What are you working on? Torres asked after an hour. Follow-up? The Bureau's handling the investigation. I know. So what are you doing? Emma didn't look up. Making sure nothing gets missed. Torres walked over, looked at the screen, saw Howell's name. The DA? Emma, that's outside the scope. Is it? Yes. Wade and his buddies planted evidence. That's the case. We're not going after prosecutors. Why not? Because we don't have evidence of wrongdoing. Then I'll find it. Torres sat down on the bed, studying Emma. You know what happens to people who push too hard? They burn out. Or they get burned. I'll take my chances. This isn't about chances. It's about strategy. You won. Wade's finished. The network's dismantled. Take the win. Emma finally looked at her. How many of those cases did Howell prosecute? I don't know. Maybe 87. I counted. 87 cases where Wade arrested someone, Howell prosecuted them, and a judge accepted a plea deal without ever examining the evidence. That's not illegal. That's how the system works. Then the system's broken. Torres sighed. You're not wrong, but you can't fix everything. Watch me. The next morning, Emma left the motel despite Torres's protest. She had somewhere to be. The Ashford County Courthouse opened at 8. Emma walked in at 8:01, Torres trailing behind her like an annoyed shadow. Where are we going? Torres asked. Public records. The clerk, a woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a chain, looked up from her crossword. Help you? I need to request copies of case files. These case numbers. Emma slid a list across the counter. The clerk squinted at it. That's a lot of cases. 87. It'll take time, and there's a fee. How much? $1 per page. Most case files run 50 to 100 pages. Emma did the math. Somewhere between $4,000 and $8,000. Money she didn't have. I'll need to make copies myself then. What's the fee for access? The clerk frowned. You want to sit here and photograph 87 case files? Yes. That'll take days. Then I'll be here for days. Torres grabbed Emma's arm, pulled her aside. What are you doing? Building a case? Against who? Everyone who let this happen. Emma, you can't. I can. It's public record. I have every right to access it. Torres stared at her. Then she pulled out her phone, walked away, made a call. 10 minutes later, she came back. The FBI will requisition the files. Official investigation. You'll have digital copies by tomorrow. Emma blinked. Why? Because Kazdan's tired of arguing with you, and because he thinks you might actually be onto something. They drove back to the motel in silence. Emma stared out the window, watching Ashford roll past. Small shops, empty streets. People who had no idea their justice system had been rotten for years. How many of them had family members in prison right now because of Wade? Because of Howell? Because of a system that valued efficiency over truth? Back at the motel, Emma's laptop pinged. Email from Kazdan. Subject: You're welcome. Attached were 87 case files, every arrest report, every plea agreement, every sentencing record. Emma opened the first file. Read it, then the second, then the third. By midnight, she'd read 20. By dawn, she'd read 40. The pattern was everywhere. Wade would arrest someone on a minor traffic violation, find drugs, write an incident report so generic it could have been copied and pasted. Howell would file charges within 24 hours. The public defender would meet the defendant once, maybe twice, then a plea deal, guilty, sentenced, next case, assembly line justice. Emma built a spreadsheet, arrest date, defendant name, charges, public defender, judge, outcome. She color-coded everything, red for cases that went to trial, blue for plea deals, green for dismissed charges. The screen was a sea of blue. Out of 87 cases, only 3 had gone to trial. 2 had resulted in convictions anyway. 1 had been dismissed when the defendant died of an overdose before trial. Emma stared at that last entry. Male, 23 years old, arrested for possession, couldn't make bail. Died in county lockup from withdrawal complications. His name was Tyler Vance. She pulled his file, read every page. Wade had arrested him on a broken taillight, found heroin in the trunk. Tyler had insisted it wasn't his, had begged his public defender to fight. The defender had advised a plea. Tyler refused, so he sat in jail, waiting for trial. 3 weeks later, he started showing withdrawal symptoms, requested medical care, was told to wait. By the time a nurse saw him, he was seizing. By the time an ambulance arrived, he was dead. The case was closed. No trial necessary. Emma read the medical examiner's report. Cause of death: acute withdrawal complicated by dehydration and inadequate medical supervision. Recommendation: improved medical protocols in county detention. No mention of why he'd been arrested in the first place. No question about whether the evidence was real. Just another dead addict, another case closed. Emma closed the file, sat in the dark, felt something cold settling in her chest. Tyler Vance had been 23 years old. He'd had a sister, a mother, people who loved him, and he'd died in a cell, waiting to prove his innocence. Torres woke up around 7, found Emma still at the laptop. Did you sleep? No. You need to sleep. I need to finish this. Torres looked at the screen, saw the spreadsheet, the color coding, the notes. What is this? Proof. Of what? Systematic misconduct. Wade didn't just plant evidence, he fed the entire system, and the system ate it up because it was easier than doing their jobs. Torres pulled up a chair, read over Emma's shoulder. Her expression shifted from skepticism to something harder. This is bad, she said quietly. I know. No, I mean, this is really bad. If this gets out, it's not just the deputies, it's the DA, the judges, the public defenders, the whole county justice system gets called into question. Good. Emma, do you understand what happens if we pursue this? Hundreds of cases get reopened, convictions overturned, people released. The chaos alone is worth it. Torres leaned back. You're going to make a lot of enemies. I already have enemies. These will be worse. Politicians, lawyers, people with power who don't like being told they screwed up. Emma met her gaze. I didn't come here to make friends. Torres smiled, small and sharp. No, I guess you didn't. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Kazdan. He needs to see this. Kazdan arrived that afternoon with 2 other agents and a DOJ prosecutor named Ellen Marsh. They spread out in Emma's motel room, laptops open, reviewing everything she'd compiled. Marsh was in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, eyes that missed nothing. She read through the spreadsheet twice without speaking. Finally, she looked up. This is extraordinary work. Thank you. It's also a nightmare. Do you have any idea how hard it is to prove systematic prosecutorial misconduct? No, but I'm guessing you do. Marsh almost smiled. We'd need to prove intent, that Howell knew the evidence was planted and prosecuted anyway. He prosecuted 87 cases in 3 years, all with the same pattern, all with the same arresting officer. He never questioned it, not once. That's not proof of knowledge, that's proof of negligence. What's the difference? About 20 years in prison. Emma stood. Then find the proof. We've been looking. There's no communication between Howell and Wade. No emails, no texts, no calls. They were smart. Or there's nothing to find. Emma walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot where Torres's car sat, engine running, ready to move if needed. What about money? Marsh frowned. What? Wade was getting paid somehow. Overtime for court appearances, awards, promotions. What about Howell? DAs are elected. They get paid by the county. What about campaign contributions? Marsh and Kasdan exchanged glances. We haven't looked at that, Kasdan admitted. Emma turned. Then look. 3 hours later, they had an answer. Howell's last campaign had raised $300,000. For a county DA race in rural Nebraska, that was excessive. The money had come from dozens of small donors, all legitimate on paper. But buried in the records was a pattern. Multiple donations from LLCs, shell companies with minimal footprints, contributions just under the reporting threshold. Emma watched as the forensic accountant traced the companies back. Different names, different addresses. Same registered agent, a lawyer in Omaha named Victor Kress. Who's Kress? Emma asked. Kasdan pulled up a file. Defense attorney, high end, represents organized crime figures, drug traffickers, white-collar criminals. Why would a defense attorney fund a DA's campaign? Marsh leaned forward. Because a DA who's focused on small-time possession cases isn't focused on bigger fish. The room went quiet. Emma got it first. Wade was a distraction. Exactly, Marsh said. Keep the cops busy busting kids with dime bags and nobody's looking at the real dealers, the distributors, the people Kress represents. So Howell was getting paid to look the other way? In effect, yes. Emma sat down slowly. How many cases did Howell decline to prosecute in the same time period? Kasdan typed, pulled up records. His face went pale. 43 major drug trafficking cases, all declined due to insufficient evidence. Insufficient or ignored? We'd have to review each one to know for sure. Emma looked at Marsh. So we review them. Marsh shook her head. This is beyond the scope of our current investigation. We'd need approval from... Then get approval. It's not that simple. It never is. Emma stood. But here's what is simple. Wade planted evidence on 300 people. Howell prosecuted them. And while they were doing that, real criminals walked free. So either we go after all of it, or we're just putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Marsh studied her for a long moment. You don't quit, do you? No. That's going to get you hurt. Probably. Marsh closed her laptop, stood. I'll make the call. But Emma, if we do this, you're in for the long haul. Months, maybe years, and you'll be a target the entire time. I'm already a target. Not like this. Right now you're a victim who fought back. If you push this, you become a threat to powerful people. They will come after you, legally, professionally, personally. Emma didn't blink. Let them try. That night, after everyone left, Torres sat by the window while Emma lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. You ever think about walking away? Torres asked. No. Not even for a second? Emma turned her head. Why would I? Because you've already won. Wade's finished. You proved your innocence. You could leave right now and nobody would blame you. I'd blame me. Why? Emma sat up. You ever been to war? Torres shook her head. I have. And you know what I learned? The people who survive aren't the ones with the best training or the best gear. They're the ones who don't quit, who keep moving when everyone else freezes. This isn't war, isn't it? Emma gestured to the stack of files on the desk. 300 people had their lives destroyed. Tyler Vance died in a cell. And the people responsible are still walking around like nothing happened. If that's not a war, I don't know what is. Torres was quiet for a moment. You know you can't save everyone, right? I know. But you're going to try anyway. Yeah, Torres smiled. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the craziest. Probably both. The next morning, Emma's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she did. Ms. Hartley? A woman's voice, older, shaking. Yes? My name is Patricia Vance. I'm Tyler's mother. Emma sat up. Mrs. Vance, I saw you on the news. What you did. How you exposed those deputies. The woman's voice broke. Tyler told me he didn't do it. He told me the drugs weren't his. I didn't believe him. I thought he was lying. I thought... She couldn't finish. Emma closed her eyes. Mrs. Vance, I'm so sorry. Is it true? Did that deputy plant evidence on my son? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. He died thinking I didn't believe him. He died alone in that place, and I didn't... Emma heard the woman crying, heard years of guilt and grief pouring out. Mrs. Vance, I need you to listen to me. Your son's case is being reviewed. We're going to find out what really happened. And if Wade planted that evidence, the whole world is going to know Tyler was innocent. Will that bring him back? No, but it'll clear his name, and it might stop this from happening to someone else. Patricia Vance was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you need from me? Everything you remember about Tyler's arrest, his lawyer, the trial, anything that seemed wrong. I'll send it to you. And Ms. Hartley? Yes? Thank you for believing him when I didn't. The line went dead. Emma sat there, phone in her hand, feeling the weight of it. Torres looked over. You okay? No. Want to talk about it? No. Emma stood, walked to the bathroom, locked the door, turned on the shower so Torres wouldn't hear. Then she cried. Not for long, not loudly, just enough to let some of the pressure out. Because Patricia Vance was right. This wouldn't bring Tyler back. Wouldn't undo the damage. Wouldn't fix the system that had killed him. But it was all Emma had, so she'd give it everything. She dried her face, looked at herself in the mirror, saw someone who'd aged 10 years and 3 months, saw exhaustion, determination, something harder than it used to be. Good. She unlocked the door, walked back out. Torres pretended not to notice. 2 days later, the FBI executed search warrants on Victor Kress's law offices in Omaha. They seized computers, files, financial records, everything. Kress lawyered up immediately, refused to cooperate. But his associates weren't as disciplined. Within 48 hours, 3 of them had flipped, offered testimony in exchange for immunity. The story they told was worse than Emma had imagined. Kress had been running a protection racket. He'd funnel money to local DAs through shell companies. In exchange, those DAs would decline to prosecute his clients, or lose evidence, or botch cases so badly they fell apart in court. Howell had been one of 6 DAs in 3 states on Kress's payroll. And Wade? Wade had been the perfect distraction, a decorated cop making high-profile arrests, feeding the local news stories about the drug problem, keeping everyone's eyes on small-time users while major dealers operated freely. The scope was staggering. Marsh called Emma personally. We've got enough to bring RICO charges, federal racketeering. This is going to be the biggest corruption case in Nebraska history. What about the victims? We're setting up a review process. Every case Wade touched, every case Howell prosecuted. It'll take time, but we'll get there. How much time? A year. Maybe 2. Emma felt her jaw tighten. People are in prison right now. I know, we're prioritizing the most serious cases first. Tyler Vance died. I know that too, Emma. We're moving as fast as we can. It's not fast enough. It's all we have. Emma hung up, threw the phone on the bed. Torres watched her. You did it. You brought down the whole network. Tyler Vance is still dead. You can't change that. I know. Emma's voice was flat. But I can make sure everyone remembers why. That night, Emma wrote an email to every major news outlet in Nebraska, attached Tyler's case file, his arrest report, the medical examiner's report, Patricia Vance's statement. Subject, the real cost of corruption. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. By morning, her phone was ringing non-stop. Reporters, producers, national news networks. Torres looked panicked. Emma, what did you do? Made sure they can't bury this. The DOJ is going to lose their minds. Let them, Marsh called 30 minutes later. She sounded furious. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking Tyler Vance deserves to have his story told. You just compromised an ongoing investigation. No, I didn't. Everything I sent was public record. You said so yourself. That's not the point. Then what is? Marsh went quiet. Then, you're making this personal. It is personal. That's the whole point. Another pause. You're going to testify, right? When this goes to trial? Yes. Good. Because after this, Kress and Howell are going to come after you with everything they have. Character assassination, defamation suits. They'll try to paint you as unstable, vindictive, a liar. Let them try. Emma, I've been shot at by people who actually wanted me dead. I think I can handle some lawyers. Marsh laughed, short and sharp. You're either fearless or suicidal. Little of both. The media storm hit like a hurricane. Tyler Vance's face was on every news channel. His mother did interviews, crying, telling anyone who'd listened that her son had been innocent. The public response was immediate. Outrage. Protests outside the Ashford County Courthouse. Demands for accountability. Howell released a statement. These allegations are baseless. I have served this community with integrity for 15 years. Nobody believed him. 2 days later, he resigned. The judge who'd presided over most of Wade's cases announced early retirement. And Victor Kress? Kress disappeared. Rumor was he'd fled to Mexico. Emma watched it all unfold from her motel room, Torres beside her, both of them glued to the news. You started a revolution, Torres said. I started a reckoning. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You just made a very powerful man very angry. Watch your back. Emma showed it to Torres. Torres immediately called Kazdan. We need to move her now. No, Emma said. This isn't negotiable. I'm not running. Emma, Kress has connections, money. If he wants you dead, then he'll have to get in line. Torres grabbed her shoulders. This isn't a joke. Emma met her eyes, calm, cold. I know, but I'm not hiding. Not when we're this close. Torres stared at her. Then she pulled out her gun, checked it. Fine, but I'm not leaving your side, not for a second. Deal. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to Torres breathing by the window, thinking about everything that had happened. 3 months ago, she'd been nobody. A quiet nurse in a small town. Invisible. Dismissed. Now she was at the center of the biggest corruption scandal in state history. And somewhere out there, people who'd lost everything because of Wade were getting their lives back. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like the beginning of something darker, because Kress was still out there, and men like him didn't forget. Emma's phone lit up. Another text. This one was a photo. Her apartment in Denver, from outside. Recent. The message below. We know where you've been. We know where you'll go. Stop now, or everyone you've ever cared about pays the price. Emma stared at the photo. Her hands didn't shake. Her breathing stayed even. She'd been threatened before by better people, with worse consequences. But this time, something was different. This time, they weren't threatening her. They were threatening the people she'd left behind, and that changed everything. Emma forwarded the photo to Torres without a word. Torres was across the room in 2 seconds, weapon drawn, scanning the parking lot through the blinds. We're moving, now. No. Torres spun. Did you see that? They know where... I saw it. I don't care. Emma, they're threatening people I haven't spoken to in 2 years. Emma's voice was flat, cold. My ex-landlord in Denver, maybe a neighbor I nodded at in the hallway. They're bluffing. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because if Kress wanted me dead, I'd already be dead. This is intimidation, and I don't negotiate with people trying to scare me. Torres lowered her weapon slowly. You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe, but not tonight. Emma deleted the message, turned off her phone, lay back down. Torres stood there for a long moment, then holstered her gun and returned to the window. But she didn't sit, just kept watch, tension radiating off her like heat. Emma closed her eyes and forced herself to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The same technique she'd used in field hospitals when the mortars were falling and she had to keep her hands steady enough to find a vein. Fear was just another variable. You acknowledged it, then you worked around it. She'd survived worse than Victor Kress. Morning came with a call from Kazdan. Emma answered on speakerphone while Torres listened. We found Kress, Kazdan said. He's not in Mexico. He's in a cabin outside Crestview. Locals spotted his car 2 days ago. You moving on him? FBI's coordinating with state police. We'll have him in custody by tonight. What about his people? Kazdan hesitated. We're tracking known associates, but Emma, these guys are professionals. If Kress gave orders before we grab him, I know. Then you also know you need to disappear for a while. No. Damn it, Emma, this isn't... I testify in 3 days. Howell's arraignment. If I run now, his lawyers will use it. They'll say I'm unstable, that I'm hiding because my story doesn't hold up. Better unstable than dead. I'll take my chances. She hung up. Torres was staring at her. You're insane. You've mentioned that. No, I mean clinically insane. Most people, when someone threatens their life, they hide. You're walking toward it. Emma stood, stretched, her back cracked. In the Army, we had a saying, the best defense is making the enemy think twice. And how do you make Kress think twice? By showing him I'm not afraid. He already knows you're not afraid. That's why he wants you dead. Emma smiled without humor. Then I guess we understand each other. The arraignment was set for Thursday morning. Emma spent the next 2 days preparing with Marsh, going over testimony, reviewing evidence. The prosecutor was meticulous, drilling Emma on every detail of Wade's arrest, the planted evidence, the dashcam footage. Howell's lawyers are going to attack your credibility, Marsh said. They'll say you're vindictive, that you manufactured evidence to get revenge. Let them. They'll bring up your job history, the fact that you've been fired from 3 hospitals. I wasn't fired. I was let go for not being a cultural fit. They'll make it sound like you're difficult, unstable, someone with a grudge against authority. Emma leaned back. I was a combat medic for 6 years. I saved lives under fire. If they want to paint me as unstable, they're going to have to explain why the Army trusted me with soldiers' lives. Marsh smiled slightly. Good. Use that. Wednesday night, Torres got a call. She stepped outside, came back 5 minutes later looking grim. They got Kress. Emma felt something unclench in her chest. Where? The cabin. He didn't resist. Lawyers already filing motions, but he's in federal custody. No bail. What about his associates? Torres hesitated. 4 of them are in custody. 3 are still in the wind. Names? Emma? Names. Torres pulled up a file on her phone. Marcus Wade. He posted bail, remember? Disappeared 2 days ago. Then there's Daniel Carey and Foster Mills, both ex-military. Both worked private security for Kress. Emma studied the photos. Wade looked like he'd aged a decade. Hollow-eyed. Desperate. The other 2 were younger, harder. Men who'd been paid to do ugly things and had gotten good at it. What are their skill sets? Carey was Army Ranger. Mills was Marine Corps. Force Recon. Professionals, trained, dangerous. Emma handed the phone back. So, we're expecting company? That's why we're moving you tonight. Safe house outside Lincoln. Armed guards. No one knows the location except... No! Torres threw up her hands. Why do I even bother? Because it's your job. My job is to keep you alive, and you keep making that impossible. Emma stood, walked to the window, looked out at Ashford, the town that had almost destroyed her and ended up destroying itself instead. If I hide, they win. Even if Kress goes to prison, even if Wade gets caught, they win. Because they made me run. So this is about pride? This is about sending a message. What message? Emma turned. That I don't break. Torres stared at her for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. I'm calling for backup. If you're staying, we're doing this right. By midnight, there were 4 federal agents stationed around the motel, 2 in the parking lot, 1 in the room next door. Torres in Emma's room, by the window, watching. Emma tried to sleep. Couldn't. Just lay there, listening to the hum of the air conditioner, the occasional crackle of radio chatter from Torres's earpiece. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Last chance, drop the case or people die. Emma showed it to Torres. Torres radioed the team. Possible threat escalation. Everyone stay sharp. The hours crawled. 3 a.m., 4, 5. Nothing happened. At 6, Emma got up, showered, dressed in the suit Marsh had provided for court. Black blazer, white blouse, professional, composed. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. 3 months ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was about to walk into a courthouse and testify against one of the most powerful men in the county. Torres knocked. "Cars here?" The federal courthouse in Lincoln was a concrete fortress. Security was heavy. Agents everywhere, metal detectors, bomb-sniffing dogs. Emma walked through it all with Torres at her side, ignoring the stares, the whispers. Inside, Marsh was waiting. "You ready?" "Yes." "Remember, answer the questions directly. Don't elaborate. Don't get emotional. Just tell the truth." "I know." Marsh studied her. "You're not nervous." "No?" "You should be. Howell's lawyers are sharks." "So am I." The courtroom was packed. Press in the gallery. Howell at the defense table in an expensive suit, looking calm and confident. His lawyers, 3 of them, all polished and predatory, whispered among themselves. Emma took her seat behind Marsh, scanned the room, saw Patricia Vance in the back, clutching a photo of Tyler. Saw other faces she recognized from the case files. Victims, families, people who'd been crushed by the system and were finally getting a chance to watch it answer for what it had done. The judge entered. Everyone stood. "Be seated. We're here for the arraignment of Raymond Howell on charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. How does the defendant plead?" Howell's lead attorney stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor." "Bail?" "We request the defendant be released on his own recognizance. Mr. Howell is a respected member of this community with deep ties. He poses no flight risk." Marsh rose. "Your Honor, the defendant used his position to facilitate a criminal enterprise that resulted in hundreds of wrongful convictions. He has significant financial resources and motivation to flee. We request he be held without bail." The judge looked at Howell. "Does the defendant wish to speak?" Howell stood. "Your Honor, I've dedicated my life to serving this community. These charges are politically motivated attacks by a federal government that wants to undermine local authority. I have never, in 15 years, violated my oath. I ask that you allow me to remain free while I fight these baseless accusations." He sat down, looked confident, like he had already won. The judge took 5 minutes, then, "Bail is set at $5 million, cash or bond. Defendant will surrender his passport and submit to GPS monitoring. Next hearing in 30 days. The gavel fell. Howell's lawyers looked pleased. Marsh looked furious. Emma felt nothing, just watched as Howell walked out, surrounded by his legal team, playing to the cameras outside. Marsh turned to her. "He'll make bail." "I know. And then he'll spend the next month on every news channel crying about federal overreach." "Let him." "You're not concerned?" Emma stood. "He can say whatever he wants. Won't change what's on that dashcam video." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Emma ignored them, Torres clearing a path to the car. But one voice cut through the chaos. "Ms. Hartley, do you feel responsible for Tyler Vance's death?" Emma stopped, turned. A reporter, young, ambitious, microphone extended, stared at her. "You knew Wade was planting evidence. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Maybe Tyler would still be alive if—" Torres stepped between them. "Back off." But Emma put a hand on Torres's arm, stepped forward. "Tyler Vance died because the system failed him," she said quietly. "Because a deputy planted evidence. Because a prosecutor didn't do his job. Because a judge signed off on a plea deal without asking questions. I didn't kill Tyler Vance. They did. But you could have stopped. I was arrested, in jail, fighting for my own life. I did everything I could with what I had. If you want to blame someone, blame the people who were supposed to protect him and didn't." She turned and walked away. The clip went viral within an hour. Back at the motel, Emma watched herself on every news channel, saw her face, heard her voice, calm, controlled, unbreakable. The comment section was split. Half called her a hero, half called her an opportunist. She didn't read either. Torres's phone rang. She answered, listened, her face going pale. "When? Where?" "Jesus. Okay, we're moving now." She hung up, looked at Emma. "Wade's been spotted, 2 miles from here." Emma stood slowly. "Alone?" "We don't know. State police are responding, but he's coming for me." We don't know that. Yes, we do. Torres grabbed her bag. We're leaving. Now. There's a car out back. We go quiet. We go fast. The window exploded. Torres hit the ground, pulling Emma down with her. Glass everywhere. Something metallic clattered across the floor. Grenade. Torres kicked it toward the bathroom in one smooth motion, shoved Emma behind the bed, covered her body with her own. The explosion was deafening. The bathroom door blew off its hinges. Smoke filled the room. Torres was up immediately, weapon drawn, moving to the window. "Stay down!" Emma's ears were ringing. She tasted copper, blood from somewhere. She touched her face, came away with red fingers. More gunfire. Outside. The agents in the parking lot returning fire. Torres fired 3 shots through the broken window. "We've got 2 shooters. East side. There." Another explosion, closer. The motel room next door. The wall buckled. Torres grabbed Emma, hauled her to her feet. "Move!" They ran for the door. Torres kicked it open, swept the hallway. Clear. They sprinted for the back exit. Behind them, more gunfire, shouting, the crackle of flames. Outside, the parking lot was chaos. One federal car on fire, another riddled with bullets. An agent down, bleeding from the shoulder. Another dragging him to cover. Torres shoved Emma toward a black SUV. "Get in!" Emma dove into the passenger seat. Torres behind the wheel, engine already running. She floored it, tires screaming, fishtailing out of the lot. In the rearview mirror, Emma saw the motel burning, saw muzzle flashes, saw 2 figures in tactical gear moving between cars. "They knew," Emma said. Her voice sounded distant, muffled. "They knew exactly where we were." Torres didn't answer, just drove. 90 miles an hour down back roads, no lights, checking mirrors every 3 seconds. Emma's phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Text from unknown number. "Told you to drop it? Now people die." She showed Torres. Torres's jaw tightened. "Check if anyone was killed." Emma pulled up the news. Nothing yet. Too recent. She switched to the police scanner app on her phone. Multiple casualties, federal agents under fire, requesting backup. "How many casualties?" Emma asked the phone like it could answer. Torres's radio crackled. "Agent Torres, report." Torres grabbed it. "This is Torres. We're clear. En route to secondary location. What's the status at the motel?" 3 agents wounded, 1 critical. Suspects fled north. We have units pursuing. Casualties on the suspect side? Unknown. We're still securing the scene. Torres hung up, looked at Emma. "This is on Kress." "Kress is in custody. He gave orders before we grabbed him. Wade and the others are just following through." Emma stared out the window at fields racing past. "They tried to kill federal agents." "They tried to kill you. The agents were just in the way." "Same thing." "No, it's not. Because now this isn't just about corruption. It's about cop killers. And every law enforcement agency in 3 states is going to be hunting these guys." Emma's phone buzzed again. Another photo. This one of Marsh leaving the courthouse, crosshairs superimposed over her face. Emma's blood went cold. "They're going after Marsh." Torres grabbed the phone, swore, called Kazdan immediately. "We have a credible threat against Prosecutor Marsh. She needs protection now." "Already on it," Kazdan said. "We pulled her into protective custody an hour ago." "What about the others? The victims who came forward?" "We're reaching out." "Emma, where are you?" Torres gave him the coordinates. "Head to the Lincoln field office. We'll meet you there." Torres hung up, kept driving. Emma sat in silence, watching the landscape blur, thinking about the agent who'd been shot, about Marsh with crosshairs on her face, about Patricia Vance sitting in that courtroom, just wanting justice for her son. "This is my fault," Emma said quietly. "No. I pushed. I wouldn't stop. You exposed corruption. They chose violence. That's on them. People got hurt. People were already hurt, 300 people. You're just the first one who fought back." Emma closed her eyes. "Doesn't feel like winning." "That's because it's not over yet." The Lincoln FBI field office was a nondescript building in an industrial park. Torres pulled into the underground garage, and they were immediately surrounded by agents, escorted inside, down hallways, into a conference room. Kazdan was waiting. So was Marsh, and a man Emma didn't recognize, 50s, gray suit, hard eyes. Emma Hartley, this is Assistant Director Frank Delgado. He's running the operation. Delgado didn't offer his hand. Ms. Hartley, you've caused quite a situation. I didn't plant the grenade. No, but your actions precipitated a violent response. 3 of my agents are in the hospital. 1 might not make it. Emma felt the words like a punch. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't help. What helps is you telling me everything you know about Wade and his associates. I don't know anything. You've been investigating this for months. You know something. Emma looked at Kasdan. He nodded slightly. She took a breath. Wade's desperate. He lost everything. His job, his reputation, his future. He's got nothing left to lose. That makes him dangerous. It makes him predictable. He's not thinking long term. He's thinking revenge. Against you. Against everyone who exposed him. But yes, primarily me. Delgado leaned forward. So we use you as bait. Torres stood. Absolutely not. It's the fastest way to end this. It's also the fastest way to get her killed. We'd have full tactical support, snipers, surveillance, SWAT on standby. Emma spoke before Torres could object again. What's the plan? Emma, no, Torres said. What's the plan? Emma repeated, looking at Delgado. We put you somewhere visible, controlled environment. Let it leak where you are. Wade comes for you, we take him down. You're talking about using a civilian as bait in an active manhunt. I'm talking about ending this before more people die. Emma looked at Marsh. What do you think? Marsh's expression was carefully neutral. Tactically, it makes sense. Ethically, it's a nightmare. Legally, I can't advise it. But if you volunteer, that changes things. Emma turned to Delgado. I want full transparency, no surprises. And if this goes sideways, you pull me out immediately. Agreed. Torres grabbed Emma's arm. Can I talk to you? Alone? They stepped into this hallway. Torres closed the door. This is insane. You've said that before. Because you keep doing insane things. Emma, these guys are professionals. They've already hit a federal safe house. They're not going to walk into a trap. Then we make it convincing. How? Emma thought for a moment. We make them think I'm alone, vulnerable, that the FBI pulled protection because I'm too much of a liability. And if they see through it, then we adapt. Torres stared at her. You really think you're invincible, don't you? No, I think I'm the only person they want more than they want to disappear. That's not reassuring. It's tactical. Torres laughed, bitter and sharp. You sound like a soldier. I was a soldier. You're a nurse. I'm both, and right now, I'm the best shot we have at ending this. Torres was quiet for a long moment. Then, if you die, I'm going to kill you. Deal. They went back inside. Delgado had a map spread on the table. There's an old industrial complex outside Crestview, abandoned factory, good sight lines, multiple entry points. We can set up observation posts here, here, and here. He pointed. Emma studied the map. When? Tomorrow night. We leak your location in the morning. Give them time to plan. We'll be ready. Emma nodded. What do I do until then? Stay here. We've got secure rooms upstairs. Torres will stay with you. And Marsh? Protective custody until this is over. Marsh stood. I'll continue working the case remotely. Emma, I'll need your testimony on record, in case I don't make it, in case anything happens. They spent the next 6 hours recording Emma's testimony. Every detail of Wade's arrest, the planted evidence, the pattern of corruption, Tyler Vance's death, Howell's involvement, Cress's operation. By the time they finished, it was dark outside. Marsh closed her laptop. That's everything. If something happens tomorrow, we have enough to proceed without you. Comforting. It's practical. Marsh hesitated. For what it's worth, what you're doing is brave. Stupid, but brave. Everyone keeps saying that, because it's true. Marsh left. Emma sat alone in the conference room, staring at the map of the factory, tracing the sight lines, the entry points, imagining how it would go down. Torres brought her food, sandwiches from a deli, coffee that tasted like motor oil. You should eat. Emma wasn't hungry, but she ate anyway. Fuel. Necessary. You scared? Torres asked. Yes. Good. Scared keeps you sharp. You scared? Torres smiled slightly. Terrified. But I've been in worse situations. Like what? Classified. They sat in silence for a while. Then Torres spoke again. Why are you doing this? Really? Emma didn't answer right away. She thought about Patricia Vance, about Tyler dying alone in a cell, about 300 people who'd been steamrolled by a system that was supposed to protect them. Because someone has to, she said finally, and everyone else gave up. Torres nodded. That's what I thought. They went upstairs. The secure room was small. Bed, bathroom, no windows. Torres took a chair by the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. Emma lay down, closed her eyes, didn't sleep. Just waited for morning. It came too fast. At 7 a.m., Delgado briefed the team. 20 agents, snipers, SWAT. Everyone knew their positions, their roles. Emma stood in the center listening, feeling like a piece on a chessboard. We leaked the location at 9, Delgado said. Expect contact by nightfall. Ms. Hartley, you'll be wearing a wire and a tracker. You'll have a panic button. If anything feels wrong, you use it. What if they jam communications? Then the snipers make the call. Emma nodded. At 9, the leak went out. A carefully planted story on social media. Federal witness Emma Hartley moved to abandoned factory outside Crestview after safe house attack. FBI unable to provide adequate protection. Within an hour, it had spread everywhere. Emma spent the day preparing, memorizing the factory layout, going over signals, running through scenarios. By late afternoon, they moved to the location. The factory was exactly as Delgado described. Crumbling concrete, broken windows, rusted machinery. Perfect for an ambush. Perfect for a trap. Emma walked through the main floor while agents set up positions. Snipers on the roof. SWAT in the loading bay. Torres beside her, checking angles. You don't have to do this, Torres said for the 10th time. I know. So why are you? Emma looked at the empty factory. Thought about all the empty rooms people like Wade had left behind. Lives destroyed. Families broken. Because running never solved anything. At 7 p.m., everyone was in position. Emma sat alone in the center of the factory floor, visible through the windows, a single light overhead. Bait. She waited. 8 p.m., nothing. 9 p.m., still nothing. At 10, Delgado's voice crackled in her earpiece. We've got movement. North perimeter. 2 figures. Heavily armed. Emma's pulse spiked. She forced herself to breathe. Stay calm. Visual confirmation? Delgado asked. Negative. Too dark. But they're moving tactical. Military patterns. Emma sat perfectly still, waiting. Minutes passed like hours. Then the factory door creaked open. Marcus Wade stepped into the light, rifle raised, eyes locked on Emma. Behind him, 2 more figures, Carey and Mills. Wade looked worse than his photo, gaunt, hollow, a man with nothing left. Hello, Emma? She didn't move. Marcus, you should have taken the deal. There was no deal. There's always a deal. He moved closer. Drop the case. Disappear. Live. And if I don't? He smiled. No warmth. Just teeth. Then you die. And so does everyone who helped you. Emma's hand moved slowly toward the panic button in her pocket. Wade's rifle snapped up. Don't! She froze. Stand up. Slowly. Emma stood, heart hammering, counting seconds, waiting for the signal. For the snipers. For SWAT. Nothing happened. Wade circled her. You know what's funny? I actually respected you. The way you played it. The dash cam, the patience. That was smart. Thanks. But you made one mistake. You thought the system would protect you. I thought the truth would protect me. Truth? Wade laughed. Truth is whatever people believe. And right now, people believe you're a troublemaker who got federal agents killed. Emma's blood ran cold. What did you do? Me? Nothing. But Carey here is very good with explosives, and the FBI field office in Lincoln has very poor security. Emma's earpiece was silent. Too silent. She looked at Wade, really looked. saw the certainty in his eyes. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Then she heard it, distant, muffled, an explosion. Wade smiled. "Not so protected now, are you?" Emma's mind raced. The field office, Kazdan, Marsh, everyone who'd been helping her. "You're lying. Check your phone." "Oh, wait. You can't because communications are jammed." He raised his rifle, pointed it at her head. "Last chance, drop the case." Emma looked at him, thought about everything she'd fought for, everything she'd lost, everyone who was counting on her. "No." Wade's finger moved to the trigger, and the factory lights went out. Emma dropped. Pure instinct. She hit the concrete floor as gunfire erupted above her head, muzzle flashes strobing the darkness like lightning. Wade's rifle barked 3 times where she'd been standing. She rolled left, scrambling behind a rusted machine press. More gunfire. Different angles. The snipers. "Target down," someone shouted. Not Wade's voice. Emma's breath came in short gasps. Her earpiece crackled back to life. "Emma, stay down. We've got—" Torres's voice cut out. More static. Glass shattered. Something heavy hit the floor. Emma pressed herself against the machinery, trying to make sense of the chaos. 3 shooters. Maybe 4. The SWAT team returning fire. Voices shouting coordinates she couldn't parse. Then silence. Terrible, ringing silence. Emma counted to 10. 20. Nothing. She risked a look around the edge of the press. Wade was gone. So were the others. Just empty floor where they'd been standing, brass casings scattered like confetti. "Clear!" A SWAT officer emerged from the shadows, rifle sweeping. "Building's clear. 2 suspects down. 1 fled." Torres appeared, moving fast. "Emma?" "I'm here." Torres pulled her up, hands checking for injuries. "You hit?" "No. What about the field office? The explosion?" Torres's face was grim. "Delgado's confirming now. But Emma—" Her radio crackled. Delgado's voice tense. "False alarm. Carrie set off a flashbang in the parking garage. Minimal damage. No casualties." Emma felt her knees weaken. They were bluffing. They were buying time, Torres corrected. She pointed to the far wall where a SWAT officer knelt over a body. "Mills didn't make it. Carrie's in custody. Wade's in the wind." "How did he—" "Underground drainage tunnel. We found the access point. He had an exit strategy." Emma looked at the body on the floor. Mills, face down, blood pooling beneath him. A professional who'd made one mistake, following orders from a desperate man. Delgado strode in, face hard. "Sweep the perimeter. I want Wade found. Now." Agents scattered. Emma stood in the center of the factory, surrounded by chaos, feeling the adrenaline drain and leave her hollow. "We need to move you," Torres said. "Where?" "Somewhere Wade can't predict." But Emma was thinking about the way Wade had looked at her. The certainty in his eyes. He'd been willing to die to silence her, which meant someone else was scared enough to make that worth his while. "He wasn't working alone," Emma said. Delgado turned. "What?" "Wade. He's desperate, but he's not stupid. He knew this was a trap. He came anyway. Why?" "Because he's unhinged." "No. Because someone promised him something. Protection. Money. A way out." Torres caught on first. "Kress." "Kress is in custody," Delgado said. "But his network isn't," Emma countered. "His lawyers, his associates. Someone reached out to Wade and gave him a reason to take this risk." Delgado's jaw tightened. "We're monitoring Kress's communications. Everything's recorded." "What about his lawyers?" Silence. Emma pressed. "Attorney-client privilege. You can't monitor those calls. Wade could be getting instructions right now through Kress's legal team." Delgado pulled out his phone. Made a call. "I need surveillance on every attorney representing Victor Kress. I want to know who they're talking to and when." He hung up, looked at Emma. "If you're right, this gets a lot more complicated." "It was always complicated. We're just seeing it now." They moved Emma to a federal safe house 30 miles outside Lincoln. Not a motel this time. The actual house in a gated community, surrounded by agents pretending to be neighbors. Torres set up in the living room. Emma got the upstairs bedroom. It was 4 a.m. before Emma lay down. She stared at the ceiling, replaying the factory. Wade's face. His certainty. The way he'd been willing to die. Someone had made him that certain. She must have slept because when she opened her eyes, sunlight was streaming through the blinds and Torres was shaking her shoulder. "You need to see this." Downstairs, the TV was on. Every news channel showed the same image: the abandoned factory, police tape, body bags being loaded into a coroner's van. The headline, "Federal Sting Operation Ends in Deadly Shootout. Witness Emma Hartley under fire." The reporter was mid-sentence. Questions about whether the FBI used Ms. Hartley as bait in an operation that resulted in one death and multiple injuries. Critics are calling it reckless endangerment of a civilian witness. Emma watched herself being escorted from the factory, looking shell-shocked and small. "They're spinning it," Torres said, "making you look like a victim of federal overreach." "Who's they?" "Take your guess." Howell's defense team held a press conference an hour ago, called the operation a publicity stunt, said the FBI is manufacturing drama to support a weak case. Emma turned off the TV. "Where's Delgado?" "At the field office, but he wants you to stay here until—" "Call him. Tell him I'm coming in." "Emma, now." Torres sighed but made the call. At the field office, Delgado was in his office surrounded by agents and screens showing surveillance footage. He looked up when Emma walked in. "You're supposed to be in protective custody." "I'm supposed to testify against Howell in 2 weeks. If his lawyers are already painting me as unstable, I need to get ahead of it." "By doing what?" "By telling my side, publicly." Delgado shook his head. "Absolutely not. You talk to the press, you compromise the case." "The case is already compromised. They're calling me a federal pawn. If I don't push back, the jury's already going to distrust me before I take the stand." Marsh appeared in the doorway. Emma hadn't realized she was there. "She's right." Delgado turned. "Counselor?" "Howell's team is controlling the narrative. Emma needs to control hers. One interview, carefully managed. We choose the outlet, we set the parameters. And if she says something that damages the prosecution, I'll be there to stop her." Marsh looked at Emma. "But she's not wrong. Right now, she looks like a victim. We need her to look like a survivor." Delgado was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "One interview, national outlet. Tomorrow morning." Emma exhaled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You screw this up, Howell walks." That night, Emma prepared with Marsh. They went over talking points. What to say, what to avoid, how to handle questions about the factory, about Wade, about the deaths. "Don't get emotional," Marsh said. "Stay calm, factual. You're not a victim seeking revenge. You're a citizen demanding accountability." "What if they ask about Tyler Vance?" Marsh hesitated. "Answer honestly, but don't dwell. His death is tragic, but it's not the center of your story. Your story is about corruption, about a system that failed hundreds of people." Emma nodded, but she knew Tyler would come up, knew his face would be on the screen behind her, knew his mother would be watching. The interview was scheduled for 7 a.m. at a studio in Omaha. Emma barely slept. When Torres drove her there in the pre-dawn darkness, protesters were already gathering, signs that read "Justice for Tyler" and "Fire the FBI." Inside, the studio was cold and sterile. The interviewer was a woman named Sarah Chen. No, Emma caught herself. Different name. The woman was named Jennifer Cross, mid-40s, professional. She shook Emma's hand without smiling. "We'll start with this factory, then move to the case. You'll have time to tell your side." Emma nodded, sat down. They clipped a microphone to her collar. Someone adjusted the lights. 30 seconds, a producer called. Emma's hands were shaking. She pressed them together, breathed. The lights came up. "Good morning. I'm Jennifer Cross, and today we're speaking with Emma Hartley, the nurse at the center of Nebraska's largest corruption scandal. Ms. Hartley, thank you for being here." "Thank you for having me." "Let's start with 2 nights ago. You were at an abandoned factory when 3 armed men confronted you. Can you tell us what happened?" Emma had practiced this, kept her voice steady. "I was part of an FBI operation to apprehend fugitives who'd threatened my life and the lives of federal prosecutors. The operation was successful. 2 suspects were captured. Unfortunately, 1 was killed. Critics say the FBI used you as bait, that you were put in unnecessary danger. I volunteered. I knew the risks. But I also knew that Marcus Wade and his associates had already attacked a federal safe house and injured 3 agents. Stopping them was worth the risk. Jennifer leaned forward. You're referring to Deputy Marcus Wade, the officer who arrested you. The same officer whose dashcam footage showed him planting evidence in your vehicle. That's correct. Some people are saying you have a vendetta against Deputy Wade, that this entire case is personal revenge. Emma met her eyes. This case is about 300 people who were wrongfully convicted because deputies were planting evidence. It's about Tyler Vance, who died in jail waiting to prove his innocence. It's about a district attorney who took money to look the other way while real criminals operated freely. If wanting accountability for that is revenge, then yes, I'm guilty. Jennifer paused. Let's talk about Tyler Vance. His mother has been very vocal about your role in exposing his case. But some critics say, if you come forward sooner, he might still be alive. Emma felt the words like a blade. She'd known this was coming, had prepared for it, but it still hurt. Tyler Vance died 3 months before I was arrested. I didn't know him, didn't know his case. When I was arrested, I was fighting for my own survival. I did everything I could with what I had, and when I had the resources to dig deeper, I made sure his case was part of the investigation. But you do feel some responsibility? I feel rage. At a system that killed him. At people who were supposed to protect him and didn't. At the fact that it took my case, a case with video evidence, for anyone to start asking questions. What do you want people to know about Tyler Vance? Emma looked directly at the camera. That he told the truth, that he was innocent, and that he died because people in power chose convenience over justice. The interview continued for another 20 minutes. Questions about Howell, about Cress, about what Emma wanted to see happen next. She answered each one calmly, precisely, every word rehearsed but feeling real. When it was over, Jennifer shook her hand again. That was good. You came across well. Emma didn't feel well. Felt like she'd been flayed open on national television. Outside, Torres was waiting. How'd it go? I don't know. But within an hour, Emma knew. The interview went viral. Clips everywhere. Her face on every news site. Comment sections exploding. Most were supportive. Some weren't. But the narrative had shifted. Emma wasn't a victim anymore. She was a threat. That afternoon, Howell's lawyers filed an emergency motion. They wanted Emma's testimony excluded. Claimed she was biased, unreliable. That the interview proved she had a personal vendetta. Marsh called Emma personally. They're scared. Good. But it makes them dangerous. They're going to attack you on the stand, make you look emotional, unstable. Let them try. 2 days later, Delgado called with news. We found Wade. Emma's breath caught. Where? Mexico. Federales picked him up trying to cross into Guatemala. He's being extradited, should be back in custody by tomorrow. Does he know he's facing federal murder charges? He knows. His lawyer's already trying to cut a deal. What kind of deal? Testimony against Cress and Howell in exchange for life instead of death penalty. Emma was quiet for a moment. Will Marsh take it? She's considering. Wade can connect the dots, we can't. Prove Cress gave direct orders. Prove Howell knew about the planted evidence. What does Wade get? Life in federal prison. No parole. Emma thought about Tyler Vance. About Patricia watching her son die alone. That's not enough. It's all we've got. Emma hung up, sat in the safe house living room, staring at nothing. Torres sat down beside her. You okay? Wade gets to live. Tyler doesn't. How is that justice? It's not, but it's the system. Then the system's still broken. Torres didn't argue. The next morning, Wade was back in the U.S. Emma watched the news footage of him being led off a plane in shackles, head down, looking like a man who'd aged 20 years in a week. He was arraigned that afternoon, pleaded not guilty. His lawyer immediately requested a meeting with prosecutors. Marsh called Emma. Wade wants to talk, off the record, just him, his lawyer, and me. He says he has information about who really runs the operation. Cress. Bigger than Cress, he says Cress was middle management. Emma felt cold. How much bigger? He wouldn't say over the phone, but Emma, if he's telling the truth, this goes beyond Nebraska. What do you need from me? Permission. Wade will only talk if you agree not to oppose his plea deal. Emma closed her eyes, saw Tyler's face, heard Patricia crying. I want to be there. When he talks. Emma, that's not non-negotiable. He talks. I listen. Or no deal. Marsh was quiet. Then, I'll see what I can do. 2 days later, Emma sat in a federal interrogation room, Torres beside her, watching through one-way glass as Marcus Wade was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit and chains. He looked broken. Hollow. Nothing like the confident deputy who'd pulled her over months ago. Marsh entered the room with Wade's lawyer, a nervous man in an ill-fitting suit. They sat down across from Wade. This conversation is off the record, the lawyer began. Nothing my client says can be used against him unless he agrees to formal testimony. Understood, Marsh said. She placed a recorder on the table. But I'm documenting this for our files. You object? The lawyer shook his head. Marsh pressed record. Deputy Wade, you said you have information about the larger operation. Let's start with Victor Kress. Wade leaned back, chains rattling. Kress is a fixer, that's all. He takes orders, distributes money, coordinates operations. Orders from who? Wade smiled without humor. You ever hear of the Terrence Group? Marsh's expression didn't change, but Emma saw her hand tighten around her pen. The pharmaceutical company. Not just pharmaceutical, they own clinics, rehab centers, pain management practices. And they've been fueling the opioid epidemic for 20 years. What does that have to do with planted evidence? Everything. The Terrence Group needs customers, addicts. So they hook people on pills through their clinics. When people can't pay, they turn to street dealers. When dealers get busted, the supply chain breaks down. Marsh leaned forward. So you were planting evidence to protect dealers? No. We were planting evidence to keep cops busy with small-time users while the big distributors, the ones supplied by Terrence, operated freely. Howell would decline to prosecute major cases. Local media would report the small busts. Everyone thought the system was working. And Kress coordinated this? Kress paid us, told us where to focus, who to avoid. He worked for Terrence. Can you prove it? Wade looked at his lawyer. The man nodded. I kept records, emails, wire transfers, meeting notes, everything. It's in a safe deposit box in Omaha. Marsh's eyes widened slightly. Why? Insurance. I'm not stupid. I knew if this fell apart, I'd need leverage. And now you're willing to hand it over? In exchange for life, no death penalty, and protection in federal custody. Marsh stood. I need to confer with my team. She left the room, returned 5 minutes later. We'll take the deal, but the evidence better be real. Wade smiled. It's real. Emma watched from behind the glass as they shook hands, felt sick. Torres put a hand on her shoulder. You okay? He gets to live. He gets to spend the rest of his life in a cell. That's not living. Emma wanted to believe that. Couldn't quite manage it. The safe deposit box was opened the next day. Inside, 3 external hard drives, a folder of bank statements, and handwritten notes detailing meetings between Wade, Kress, and representatives from the Terrence Group. The evidence was overwhelming. Dates, amounts, names. Within 48 hours, federal prosecutors had enough to bring RICO charges against the Terrence Group's executive board. Search warrants were executed at their headquarters in Chicago. Computers seized, executives arrested. The story exploded nationally. Pharmaceutical giant accused of orchestrating corruption scheme across multiple states. Emma watched the news coverage from the safe house, feeling detached. This was bigger than her now. Bigger than Wade or Howell or even Kress. This was systemic. National. A machine that had been grinding people up for decades, and she'd helped expose it by refusing to stay quiet. Marsh called that evening. Howell's lawyer reached out. They want to negotiate a plea. After all of this? His case just got a lot worse. If Wade testifies that Howell knowingly participated in a scheme funded by Terrence, he's looking at 20 years minimum. His lawyer knows it. What are they offering? Full cooperation. Testimony against Kress and Terrence executives. In exchange, 15 years with possibility of parole. Emma felt her jaw tighten. That's not enough. It's more than we'd get if this goes to trial. Juries are unpredictable. This way we guarantee convictions across the board. What about the victims? The 300 people he helped put in prison? We're expediting their cases. Most will be exonerated within 6 months. 6 months. Emma, I know it's not perfect, but it's the best we can do within the system. Emma was quiet. Then, I want to address the court. When Howell enters his plea, I want to speak. Victim impact statements happen at sentencing, not make it happen, or I oppose the deal. Marsh sighed. I'll talk to the judge. 2 weeks later, Emma stood in federal court, watching Raymond Howell enter his guilty plea. He looked smaller than she remembered, diminished. A man who'd built a career on other people's suffering finally facing consequences. The judge accepted the plea. Then he looked at Marsh. I understand there's a statement from Ms. Hartley. Marsh stood. Yes, Your Honor. Emma walked to the podium. Every eye in the courtroom was on her. She saw Patricia Vance in the gallery, saw other victims, families, people whose lives had been destroyed. She took a breath. Your Honor, my name is Emma Hartley. 6 months ago, I was arrested by Deputy Marcus Wade on fabricated charges. I spent weeks in jail, lost my job, nearly lost my life. But I had something most of Mr. Howell's victims didn't have. Evidence. A dashcam video that proved my innocence. She paused. 300 other people didn't have that. They took plea deals because they couldn't risk trial. They went to prison for crimes they didn't commit. And one of them, Tyler Vance, died in a cell, waiting to prove his innocence. Howell didn't look up. Mr. Howell prosecuted every one of those cases. He never questioned the evidence, never pushed back, never did his job. He took money from criminals to look the other way while innocent people were destroyed. Emma's voice hardened. 15 years isn't justice, but it's accountability. And for the first time, people in power are learning that they're not untouchable. She looked at Howell. Tyler Vance can't speak for himself, but I can. And I'm telling you, and everyone watching, that what happened here can't happen again. Not in Nebraska, not anywhere. She stepped down. The judge was silent for a moment, then, Thank you, Ms. Hartley. Mr. Howell, do you have anything to say before sentencing? Howell stood slowly. I'm sorry for everything. The words sounded hollow. The judge sentenced him to 15 years, recommended he serve it in federal prison, not county, ordered him to cooperate fully with ongoing investigations. Howell was led away in handcuffs. Emma walked out of the courthouse into a crowd of cameras and reporters. She didn't stop, just kept walking until she reached Torres's car. Inside, Torres looked at her. You did it. We did it. No, you did. None of this happens without you. Emma leaned back against the seat, closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she felt something like peace. It didn't last. That night, back at the safe house, Emma's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she did. Ms. Hartley? A man's voice, calm, professional. Who is this? My name is David Brennan. I'm an attorney representing the Terrence Group. Emma sat up. I'm not interested in... We'd like to offer you a settlement. $10 million. In exchange for your agreement not to pursue civil litigation against our company. Emma's breath caught. $10 million? Cash. Tax-free. All you have to do is sign a non-disclosure agreement and agree not to discuss our company publicly. You're trying to buy my silence. We're trying to resolve this matter quietly. The criminal case will proceed regardless, but civil litigation could take years, cost you money you don't have. This way, you're compensated for your suffering. You can move on with your life. Emma thought about the money, what it could do, how it could change everything. Then she thought about Tyler Vance, about Patricia, about 300 people still waiting for justice. No. Silence on the other end. Then, Ms. Hartley, be reasonable. $10 million. I said no, and if you call me again, I'm reporting this conversation to the FBI. She hung up. Torres stared at her. Did you just turn down $10 million? Yes. Why? Emma looked at her phone, at the unknown number still displayed on the screen. Because some things aren't for sale. The next morning, Emma called Marsh and reported the offer. Marsh immediately contacted the DOJ. Within hours, the Terrence Group's attorney was under investigation for witness tampering. The story broke that afternoon. Pharmaceutical giant attempts to silence key witness with multi-million-dollar offer. The public response was immediate. Outrage. Protests outside Terrence Group headquarters. Calls for congressional investigations. Emma watched it all unfold, feeling like she'd lit a fuse and was waiting for the explosion. It came 3 days later. The Terrence Group's CEO resigned. The board announced they were cooperating fully with federal investigations. Stock prices plummeted. And Emma Hartley, the quiet nurse from Ashford, Nebraska, became the face of a movement. People started calling her a hero, a whistleblower, an inspiration. She hated every second of it because she wasn't a hero. She was just someone who'd refused to be crushed by a system that crushed everyone else. 2 months later, Emma testified at Victor Kress's trial. She told her story calmly, precisely, answered every question without hesitation. Kress was convicted on all counts, sentenced to 30 years. Marcus Wade testified against the Terrence Group executives. His testimony was devastating, detailed, backed by evidence that couldn't be disputed. 5 executives were convicted. Sentences ranging from 15 to 25 years. The entire network had collapsed, and Emma Hartley had started it all by refusing to take a plea deal. 6 months after Howell's sentencing, Emma stood outside the Nebraska State Prison, waiting. Patricia Vance was beside her, clutching the photo of Tyler she always carried. The gates opened. A man walked out, mid-30s, thin, blinking in the sunlight like he'd forgotten what it looked like. His name was James Porter. He'd been one of Wade's victims, convicted on planted evidence, served 4 years before Emma's case got his conviction overturned. He saw Patricia, stopped. "Mrs. Vance?" Patricia nodded, crying. "I'm sorry about Tyler. He was a good kid. He didn't deserve what happened." "None of you did." James looked at Emma. "You're her, the nurse." Emma nodded. "Thank you for not giving up." He walked past them into a world that had moved on without him. Over the next year, 243 people were released. Convictions overturned, records cleared. Not all of them made it. Some had lost everything, jobs, families, years they'd never get back. But they were free, and that was something. Emma returned to nursing, not in Ashford, not in Nebraska. She moved to Denver, got a job at a trauma center, went back to doing what she was good at, saving lives, staying quiet, keeping her head down. But every few months, her phone would ring. Someone who'd been released, someone whose case was being reviewed, someone who just wanted to say thank you. She always answered. 1 year after Howell's sentencing, Emma received a letter, no return address, just her name and a Denver postmark. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. "Ms. Hartley, you cost our organization billions of dollars. You destroyed careers, ended lives. You think you won, but you just made powerful people very, very angry. And unlike Wade or Kress or Howell, we don't make mistakes. We wait, we plan. And when you least expect it, we'll remind you that some battles are never really over. Sleep well." Emma read it twice. Then she folded it carefully, put it in an envelope, and mailed it to the FBI. Torres called an hour later. "We got your package." "And?" "We're investigating. But Emma, this could be nothing. Empty threats from someone trying to scare you. Or it could be real. Either way, you're not alone. We're watching." Emma hung up, looked out her apartment window at Denver spreading out below her. She'd torn down a corrupt system, freed hundreds of people, brought down a pharmaceutical empire, and somewhere out there, someone was planning revenge. Emma smiled. Let them come. She'd survived worse, but surviving and living were different things. Emma learned that over the next 18 months. She worked her shifts at Denver General, patched up gunshot wounds and overdoses, went home to an apartment that still felt temporary. The letter sat in an evidence locker somewhere. The FBI assured her they were investigating. Emma didn't hold her breath. Life moved forward whether you were ready or not. Then one Tuesday morning, her phone rang. Kasdan. "We found them." Emma set down her coffee. "Found who?" "The people who sent that letter. Took a while, but we tracked the paper stock to a supplier in Virginia, cross-referenced purchases with known associates of former Terrence Group executives. Led us to a private security firm." "Let me guess. They're denying everything." "They're not denying anything. The firm shut down 6 months ago. Office cleared out. But we found their server, emails, contracts, plans." Emma felt her pulse quicken. "Plans for what?" "You. They were paid $2 million to discredit you, make you look unstable, Ruin your credibility, so if the civil cases go to trial, you're worthless as a witness. Who paid them? Shell Company. But we traced it back. 3 former Terrence executives pooled their resources from offshore accounts. They're already in prison, but apparently that wasn't enough. Emma laughed, sharp and bitter. So what happens now?
We're adding charges. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. Witness intimidation. They're looking at additional years. They're already serving 25. Now it'll be 35. Maybe 40. Emma was quiet. More years in prison. More consequences. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like confirmation. The fight was never really over. There would always be someone else. Another threat. Another battle. Emma? You still there? Yeah, thanks for letting me know. There's something else. The civil suits against Terrence Group are settling. The victims are getting compensation. Lawyers are asking if you want to be part of it. How much? Class action. Could be anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 per person, depending on time served. Emma thought about the $10 million she'd turned down. About the people who'd lost years of their lives. Tell them yes. Whatever I get, I want it split among the victims who died. Tyler Vance's family, the others who didn't make it to see this through. Kazdan was quiet. That's generous. It's fair. After she hung up, Emma sat at her kitchen table watching Denver wake up outside her window. She'd spent 2 years fighting, testifying, watching powerful people fall. And somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten what came after. What did you do when the battle was over and you were still standing? The answer came 3 weeks later in the form of Patricia Vance. Emma was leaving the hospital after a double shift when she saw the older woman waiting by her car. Patricia looked better than the last time Emma had seen her. Less hollow, more alive. Mrs. Vance? I hope you don't mind. Agent Torres told me where you work. It's fine. Is everything okay? Patricia held out an envelope. The settlement came through, Tyler's case. They gave me $400,000. Emma took the envelope, felt the weight of it. That's good. You deserve it. I want to give you half. What? No, that's your... Please. Patricia's voice cracked. You gave Tyler his name back. You made sure the world knows he was innocent. I can't buy that, but I can say thank you. Emma tried to hand it back. Mrs. Vance, I can't accept this.
Then don't accept it for you. Use it for something that matters. Start a foundation. Help other people who can't fight back. Just please, don't let Tyler's death mean nothing. Emma looked at the envelope, at Patricia's face, at the mother who'd lost everything and was still trying to turn pain into purpose. Okay, Emma said quietly. I'll use it, I promise. Patricia hugged her, held on tight. When she pulled away, she was crying. Thank you for everything.
She walked away before Emma could respond. Emma stood in the parking lot holding $200,000 and feeling the weight of expectation. Tyler Vance had died waiting for justice. Patricia was giving Emma the resources to make sure others didn't. That night, Emma called Torres. I need help with something. What kind of help? Legal, financial. I want to start a foundation for people fighting wrongful convictions. I need to know how. Torres was quiet for a moment. You're serious? Completely. Okay. I know people. I'll make some calls. 6 months later, the Tyler Vance Justice Foundation officially launched. Small office in Denver, 2 staff members, a hotline for people who couldn't afford lawyers, a fund to pay for forensic experts, investigators, appeals. Emma ran it on nights and weekends while still working as a nurse. It was exhausting, overwhelming. She made mistakes, hired the wrong people, burned through money faster than she'd planned. But slowly, it worked. The first case they took was a woman in Iowa, arrested for possession, evidence planted by a deputy who'd trained under Marcus Wade. The foundation paid for her lawyer, got the case reviewed. Conviction overturned. Then a man in Kansas. Same story, same outcome. Then 3 more. Then 10. Word spread. People started calling, sending letters, begging for help. Emma couldn't help all of them, didn't have the resources. But she helped who she could. And every time someone walked free, every time a conviction was overturned, she thought about Tyler, about Patricia, about the 300 people in Nebraska who'd gotten their lives back. 2 years after starting the foundation, Emma was invited to speak at a criminal justice reform conference in Washington, D.C. She almost said no. Public speaking wasn't her strength. She was a nurse, not an activist, but Torres convinced her. People need to hear from you, not lawyers, not politicians, someone who lived it. So Emma went. The conference was held in a hotel ballroom packed with advocates, lawyers, formerly incarcerated people. Emma sat in the back during the morning sessions, listening to stories that sounded too familiar. Planted evidence, coerced confessions, public defenders who didn't have time to actually defend. The system was still broken, just in different places. When it was her turn to speak, Emma walked to the podium feeling like an imposter. She wasn't polished, wasn't charismatic, just a woman who'd refused to quit. She told her story. The traffic stop, the planted evidence, the jail cell, the trial. The moment the video played and the courtroom went silent. "I was lucky," she said. "I had evidence. Most people don't. They take plea deals because they can't risk trial, can't afford bail, can't wait years for justice that might never come." She paused. "After my case, I wanted to disappear, go back to being invisible. But I kept getting calls from people who weren't as lucky, people still sitting in cells, still fighting alone. And I realized something." Emma looked out at the audience, saw faces of every age, every color, every background. The system doesn't break because of one bad cop or one corrupt prosecutor. It breaks because good people stay silent, because we decide it's not our problem until it happens to us. Tyler Vance died because people looked away. 300 others went to prison because nobody asked questions. Her voice hardened. "I'm asking now. We all should be. Every conviction based on questionable evidence, every plea deal that seemed too easy, every defendant who couldn't afford a real defense, those are the cases we need to examine. Those are the people we need to fight for." She stepped back from the microphone. The applause started slowly, then built. People stood. The sound was overwhelming. Emma walked off stage feeling raw, exposed, like she'd opened a wound that hadn't fully healed. Backstage, a man was waiting. Late 50s, suit and tie. He extended his hand. "Ms. Hartley, I'm Senator James Mitchell. I chair the Senate Judiciary Committee." Emma shook his hand cautiously. "Senator." That was powerful. "I'd like to talk to you about testifying before Congress. We're investigating systemic corruption in local law enforcement. Your story could help us build a case for federal oversight." Emma hesitated. "I'm not a policy expert." "No, you're something better. You're proof that the system fails, and you're proof that one person can change it." Emma thought about it. About what testifying would mean. More exposure, more threats, more nights lying awake wondering if she'd ever really be safe. But also, more accountability, more reform, more people like Tyler getting justice. "When do you need an answer? Take your time. But Ms. Hartley, we need voices like yours. People listen to survivors in ways they don't listen to politicians." He handed her his card and walked away. Emma stared at it for a long moment, then she put it in her pocket. That night, she called Patricia Vance. "They want me to testify before Congress." Patricia was quiet, then, "What does your gut say?" "That I'm tired, that I've done enough." But Tyler didn't get a choice. None of them did. "So maybe I don't get to be tired yet." Patricia's voice was soft. "Emma, you've given more than anyone had a right to ask. If you're done, be done. Nobody would blame you." "Would Tyler?" Silence. Then Patricia laughed, sad and knowing. "No, he'd tell you to keep fighting. That's who he was." Emma smiled despite herself. "Then I guess I know what I'm doing." 3 months later, Emma sat before the Senate Judiciary Committee in a room filled with cameras and reporters. She told her story again, answered questions from senators who ranged from genuinely concerned to openly hostile. One senator, a man who'd built his career on tough-on-crime rhetoric, questioned her credibility. "Ms. Hartley, isn't it true you were fired from multiple nursing positions before this alleged incident?" Emma met his eyes. "I was let go because I filed incident reports when doctors made mistakes, because I questioned orders that could hurt patients. If that makes me a problem employee, I'm guilty." "So you have a history of conflict with authority?" I have a history of not staying quiet when something's wrong. And you expect us to believe that every one of these deputies planted evidence? That an entire justice system was corrupt? Emma leaned forward. Senator, I expect you to look at the evidence. 300 wrongful convictions, 14 deputies arrested, 5 pharmaceutical executives in prison. That's not a belief. That's fact. The senator sat back, jaw tight. Another senator jumped in. What would you like to see come from these hearings? Emma took a breath. Federal oversight of local law enforcement, mandatory recording of all searches, independent review boards for misconduct complaints, and funding for public defenders so people actually get a real defense, not a 5-minute conversation before a plea deal. That's a lot of change. It's the bare minimum. The hearing lasted 4 hours. By the end, Emma was exhausted, but the damage was done. Her testimony went viral. Clips played on every news channel. Editorials called for reform. The bill didn't pass. Not the first time. Politics moved slow. Compromise stripped away the strongest provisions. But pieces of it survived. Federal grants for public defender offices, requirements for recording equipment in patrol cars, oversight committees with real authority. It wasn't everything, but it was something. And Emma learned that sometimes something was enough. 5 years after her arrest, Emma stood in front of the Nebraska state capitol. A crowd had gathered, victims she'd helped, lawyers who'd worked the cases, families who'd gotten their loved ones back. Patricia Vance was there. So was Torres, Kazdan, Marsh, even Delgado, who'd retired but still followed the cases. The governor stepped to the microphone. Today, we're unveiling a memorial to Tyler Vance and the 300 others wrongfully convicted in what became known as the Nebraska Justice Scandal. We're also announcing that Emma Hartley will be receiving the state's highest civilian honor for her courage in exposing corruption and her continued work advocating for criminal justice reform. Applause. Emma stood stiffly, uncomfortable with the attention. The memorial was simple, a black granite wall with names carved into it, Tyler Vance at the top. Below him, the others. Some had been released. Some had died. All were remembered. Patricia touched Tyler's name with shaking fingers. Emma stood beside her. He'd be proud of you. He'd be proud of you, Patricia corrected. You didn't just clear his name, you made sure it meant something. After the ceremony, Emma walked through the crowd, shook hands, accepted thanks she still didn't feel she deserved. A young woman approached, early 20s, nervous. Ms. Hartley? My name is Rachel Torres. Agent Torres is my aunt. She told me about you. Emma smiled. Your aunt's a good person. She said you're the reason she stayed with the FBI, that you reminded her why the work matters. Emma glanced over at Torres, who was pretending not to watch. I'm glad. Rachel hesitated. I'm starting law school next year. I want to be a public defender. Help people who can't help themselves. Emma looked at this young woman with hope in her eyes and felt something shift. This was the point. Not revenge, not even justice. It was passing the fight to the next generation, making sure what happened in Nebraska didn't happen again. Then you're going to change lives, Emma said. Don't let anyone tell you it's not worth it. Rachel smiled, thanked her, walked away. Emma stood in the shadow of the memorial, watching people gather around the names. Families crying, friends remembering, strangers learning. She'd spent 5 years fighting, testifying, building something from the wreckage of her own case. And she was tired, so tired. But she wasn't done, because there were still wrongful convictions, still planted evidence, still people sitting in cells waiting for someone to believe them. Emma pulled out her phone, checked the foundation's voicemail. 12 new messages, people begging for help. She couldn't save all of them, but she'd save who she could. That was enough. 6 months later, Emma was back in Denver, finishing her nursing shift when her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? Emma Hartley? A woman's voice, young, scared. Yes. My name is Lisa Brennan. I was arrested 2 days ago. The cop said he found drugs in my car, but I swear they're not mine, and nobody believes me, and I don't know what to do. Emma closed her eyes, heard echoes of her own voice from 6 years ago. Where are you? Kansas City. They're saying I have to take a plea or I'll get 10 years and I can't do this alone. Emma grabbed a pen, started writing. You're not alone. Tell me everything. As Lisa spoke, Emma took notes, asked questions, built a timeline, looked for inconsistencies. And she realized something. This would never end. There would always be another Marcus Wade, another corrupt system, another person who needed help. But there would also always be people like Emma, people who refused to stay quiet, who fought when everyone else walked away. That was the real victory. Not destroying the system, just making sure someone was there to challenge it. Lisa, Emma said, I'm going to connect you with a lawyer, someone good. You're not taking a plea. We're fighting this. I can't afford, the foundation covers it. You focus on staying strong. I'll handle the rest. Lisa started crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Just promise me something. What? If you get through this, you help the next person. You pass it forward. That's how we fix this. One case at a time. I will, I promise. Emma hung up, looked at her notes, started making calls. By morning, Lisa had a lawyer. By the end of the week, her case was under review. By the end of the month, evidence had been challenged, and the prosecutor was asking questions about the arresting officer. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. But it was progress. And Emma had learned that progress was built by people who refused to give up. 10 years after her arrest, Emma Hartley stood at a podium in the White House. The president was signing the Federal Justice Accountability Act into law. The bill mandated oversight of local law enforcement, required recording of all searches and interrogations, established independent review boards for misconduct complaints. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Emma had been invited as a witness to the signing. She stood among advocates and lawmakers, watching history happen. The president finished signing, looked up. This law exists because of people like Emma Hartley, citizens who refused to accept injustice, who fought when fighting seemed impossible, who reminded us that the system only works if we hold it accountable. Cameras flashed. Emma stood still, feeling the weight of the moment. After, she walked out of the White House into a cold D.C. afternoon. Torres was waiting. How's it feel? Torres asked. Emma thought about it, about Wade in prison, Howell serving 15 years, Kress dying behind bars from a heart attack, the Terrence group dismantled, 300 people free. Tyler Vance's name cleared. Like I can finally breathe, Emma said. They walked to a nearby park, sat on a bench, watched people pass by, unaware that the woman sitting there had changed the justice system. What's next for you? Torres asked. Emma smiled. Same thing. The foundation, helping people, fighting cases. You ever think about stopping? Every day? But you won't. No. Why? Emma looked at the sky, thought about the phone calls she still got, the letters, the people who needed someone to believe them. Because someone has to. And I know how. Torres nodded. For what it's worth, I'm glad it was you. Me too. They sat in silence for a while. Then Emma's phone buzzed, text from the foundation office. New case? Woman in Ohio says a deputy planted evidence during a traffic stop, has a dashcam video, wants to fight. Emma read it twice, felt the familiar pull, the knowledge that someone else was about to walk the path she'd walked. She stood. I need to get back. Torres smiled. Of course you do. Emma flew to Ohio that night, met with the woman, a teacher named Sarah who looked terrified and determined in equal measure. I recorded everything, Sarah said, showing Emma the footage. Emma watched, saw the deputy's hand move, saw the plant, saw the setup. This is good. This is usable. So you'll help me? Emma met her eyes, saw herself 6 years ago, alone, scared, desperate for someone to believe her. Yes, we fight this together. And they did. The case took 8 months, but the charges were dropped. The deputy was fired. An investigation was opened. Sarah walked free. And Emma moved on to the next case and the next and the next. Because that's what you did when the system broke you and you refused to stay broken. You got up. You fought back. You helped the next person do the same. 15 years after her arrest, Emma Hartley received a letter. It was from a young man named David Vance, Tyler's nephew. Ms. Hartley, I'm starting college next year, criminal justice.
I want to work for the foundation when I graduate. My uncle didn't get to see justice, but you made sure his death meant something. I want to keep that going. I want to help people the way you helped him. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for making sure we remember." Emma read the letter 3 times. Then she called Patricia. "Tyler's nephew wants to work for the foundation." Patricia's voice was thick with emotion. "I know. He told me. Emma, you didn't just save Tyler's name, you inspired his family to keep fighting. He would have done the same. Maybe, but you actually did it." Emma hung up, looked around her office, walls covered in photos of people the foundation had helped, letters from families, newspaper clippings about cases won. She'd spent 15 years fighting, helping, building something that mattered, and she was tired. But she wasn't done, because David Vance was coming. And Rachel Torres was practicing law, and Sarah from Ohio was starting her own advocacy group. The fight was passing to new hands, stronger hands, hands that had learned from Emma's mistakes and built on her victories. That was legacy, not monuments or awards or laws with your name on them. It was people who picked up the work and carried it forward. Emma looked at the photo on her desk. Her and Patricia at the memorial, both of them smiling despite everything. She'd been nobody. A quiet nurse in a small town. Dismissed, underestimated, crushed by a system designed to break people like her. But she'd refused to break, and that refusal had changed everything. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough that the next person who got pulled over and had evidence planted on them had a number to call, had people who'd believe them, had a foundation that would fight. Enough that Tyler Vance's name meant something more than a tragedy. Enough that Emma Hartley, the woman they'd tried to destroy, had turned her destruction into a weapon for everyone who came after. She closed her laptop, turned off the lights, locked the office. Tomorrow, there would be more cases, more fights, more people who needed help. But tonight, Emma Hartley walked out into the Denver evening and let herself feel something she hadn't felt in 15 years. Pride. Not because she'd won, but because she'd refused to lose. And in a system built to crush the powerless, that refusal was the most powerful thing of all.